Beneath the familiar ground we walk on every day lies a hidden realm of astonishing scale and mystery, a world where entire cities were carved from stone and earth, sheltering generations of people in darkness and secrecy. These are not just simple caves or forgotten tunnels, but vast subterranean labyrinths complete with homes, temples, streets, and sophisticated systems that allowed life to flourish deep underground. For centuries, these underground cities have remained some of history's most captivating puzzles, challenging everything we think we know about ancient engineering, human resilience, and the lengths people will go to protect their way of life. Imagine walking through passageways that twist and turn like a colossal maze, discovering chambers that once echoed with the voices of families, the rituals of priests, or the strategies of soldiers hiding from invaders. From the volcanic landscapes of Turkey to the remote deserts of Iran, and from the coral islands of the Persian Gulf to the war-torn jungles of Vietnam, these subterranean wonders span continents and millennia. Each one tells a story of ingenuity and survival, yet so many questions remain unanswered. Why did ancient builders invest years, sometimes centuries, carving out these intricate worlds? How did they solve problems like ventilation, water supply, and defense so far beneath the surface? And what compelled entire communities to retreat into the earth, leaving behind clues that continue to confuse historians and archaeologists to this day? In this video, we're going to delve into these enigmatic underground cities, uncovering the untold stories and unsolved mysteries that lie hidden in the dark. We'll explore how they were built, who lived in them, and what secrets they still guard after all this time. You'll witness engineering marvels that rival modern constructions and hear tales of human creativity that defy explanation. This is a journey to the heart of the unknown, a chance to step inside the labyrinth and discover a side of history rarely seen or understood. So join us as we venture below, where the past is waiting, shrouded in shadow and wonder, ready to ignite our imagination and challenge what we thought was possible. Long before humanity ever dreamed of reaching for the skies with towering structures of steel and glass, our ancestors were mastering a different kind of architecture, one that delved deep into the earth itself. The impulse to go underground is as old as civilization, born from a fundamental need for protection and survival. Imagine living in an ancient world filled with unpredictable threats, the sudden arrival of a hostile army on the horizon, the scorching fury of a desert sun, or the biting cold of an ice-age winter. In the face of such challenges, the Earth offered a perfect, ready-made shelter. It provided natural insulation against extreme temperatures, concealment from enemies, and a stable, secure environment that surface dwellings simply could not match. But these early subterranean spaces were far more than just simple holes in the ground. They represent some of the earliest and most brilliant examples of human engineering. People learned to identify soft, workable rock like tuff, limestone, and volcanic ash materials that were firm enough to hold their shape but could be carved with relative ease using basic tools of stone and metal. What began as single-room caves slowly evolved into sprawling, multi-level complexes. These weren't just random excavations, they were carefully planned communities. Builders incorporated ingenious ventilation shafts that funneled fresh air from the surface down to the deepest chambers, ensuring a constant supply of oxygen. They dug wells and cisterns to access groundwater, solving the critical problem of sustenance during long periods of isolation. The design of these places reveals a deep understanding of both community needs and defensive strategy. Large circular stone doors weighing hundreds of kilograms could be rolled across key passageways to seal inhabitants safely inside from any external threat. Tunnel systems were often deliberately confusing, with narrow, twisting corridors that would force invaders into single file, making them easy to defend against. Yet within these secure labyrinths, life continued with a sense of normalcy. There were areas for animals, spaces for food storage, kitchens with evidence of hearths, and often beautifully carved rooms for religious worship and social gatherings. This combination of practical daily living and profound spiritual life underground shows us that these were not temporary panic rooms, but intended as long-term homes. The motivation to create them was a powerful mix of sheer survival instinct, profound religious belief that often associated the underworld with divinity or the afterlife, and clever strategic advantage. The enduring legacy of these choices is a collection of archaeological marvels that continue to challenge our modern assumptions about the capabilities and resilience of ancient societies. Nestled in the heart of Cappadocia, a region already famous for its surreal, moon-like landscape and fairy chimneys, lies an even more breathtaking wonder hidden completely from view. This is Derinkuyu, an underground metropolis so vast and complex that its discovery still sends shivers down the spines of archaeologists. To truly grasp its scale, picture this: a city burrowing 18 stories deep into the volcanic rock, a vertical labyrinth reaching depths of over 200 feet. It wasn't just a simple shelter. It was a fully functional community capable of supporting an astonishing 20,000 people for extended periods. Within its dark, cool chambers, you would have found everything needed for daily life and even spiritual comfort, from stables for livestock and intricate wine-making facilities to homes with shared kitchens, dining areas, and beautifully carved churches complete with crosses etched into the walls. The sophistication of this design is what makes it so incredible. The builders, whoever they were, solved the critical problem of air supply by constructing over 50 ventilation shafts that reached all the way from the deepest levels to the surface, ensuring a constant flow of fresh air even when the city was sealed shut. And seal it they could with massive, rolling stone doors. These were not ordinary gates. They were immense discs of rock, weighing up to half a ton each, that could be wheeled into place from the inside to block key passageways, effectively turning the entire city into an impenetrable fortress. The great mystery surrounding Derinkuyu isn't just about how it was built, but why and by whom. While it's widely believed that early Christians extensively used and likely expanded the city to hide from Roman persecution, many archaeologists suspect its origins are far older. The sheer scale and the initial labor involved suggest it was the project of a much earlier, powerful civilization. Some theories point to the Phrygians, a people known for their advanced rock-cut architecture around the 8th century before the Common Era. Others propose it was the Hittites, an empire that dominated this region over 3,000 years ago and faced threats from every direction. Imagine the coordination required for such an undertaking, generations of people patiently carving out this sanctuary with simple hand tools, all without the modern engineering principles we rely on today. How did they plan the layout to prevent collapses? How did they manage to dig so deep while accurately connecting the ventilation shafts to the surface? And perhaps most intriguingly, how did thousands of people navigate and coordinate their lives in near total darkness? With limited light sources like torches or oil lamps, the city would have been a shadowy world of flickering echoes where sound and touch were as important as sight. The social structure needed to maintain order, allocate resources, and protect the population in such an environment must have been remarkably advanced. Despite decades of study, no written records have been found that detail its construction or early use, leaving us with only physical clues and a multitude of questions. Derinkuyu stands as a silent stone puzzle, a testament to human ingenuity that continues to guard its most profound secrets deep within the earth. But Derinkuyu was not an isolated marvel. It was merely one star in a vast constellation of hidden cities that dotted the Cappadocian landscape. This region is home to over 200 known subterranean settlements, with Qanat and Qanat being among the most significant, all interconnected by a sprawling, secret web of tunnels that stretched for miles. This was not a collection of independent refuges but a deeply integrated network, a subterranean society designed for mutual support. In times of extreme danger, the inhabitants of one city could theoretically flee through these hidden arteries to seek shelter in another, moving entire communities and their livestock to safety without ever setting foot on the surface. The engineering of these passageways reveals a clear intent. Some corridors are surprisingly broad, allowing 3 adults to walk side by side, likely for the swift movement of people and goods. Others are intentionally cramped and convoluted, forcing any potential pursuer to navigate single file through darkness, turning them into perfect death traps for ambushes and defensive warfare. The complexity of this underground world points to a level of social organization that is truly staggering. Archaeologists have uncovered evidence of sophisticated communication methods, such as coded tapping systems used on the rock walls to send messages across long distances through the silent stone, a prehistoric version of a telegraph. They've mapped out large, central halls that likely served as communal markets or meeting places, and of course, countless churches and shrines, indicating that spiritual life continued to flourish even in the deepest darkness. This was a fully realized civilization operating beneath the earth, complete with its own economy, governance, and religious practices. The sheer scale of the excavation, the millions of tons of rock that had to be painstakingly removed with simple tools, suggests this was a project that spanned generations, requiring a unified, long-term vision and a highly disciplined society. Yet, this incredible achievement is shrouded in silence. No ancient maps of this network have been found, and no written records from its builders survive to explain their grand design. Who were the master architects who first envisioned this connected underworld? Was it a coordinated effort across different communities, or did it evolve organically over centuries, with new tunnels slowly linking older, independent settlements? The most perplexing question of all is what specific, overwhelming threat could have justified such a monumental and sustained effort. While persecution is the common explanation, the scale of the network suggests a fear far more pervasive and enduring, perhaps a threat so constant that life underground became a normalized generational experience rather than a temporary emergency measure. This hidden world stands as a powerful testament to human cooperation and resilience, a silent stone monument to a community that chose to literally bend the earth itself to ensure its collective survival. While the ancient underground cities of Cappadocia were born from a need to escape the swords and spears of invading armies, a far more modern and chilling threat led to the creation of one of the largest subterranean structures ever conceived. Beneath the bustling, modern streets of Beijing lies a chilling relic of the Cold War, a vast hidden city known as Dixia Cheng. Constructed primarily in the 1960s and 70s, at the height of geopolitical tensions between China and the Soviet Union, this was not a refuge from ancient warriors, but a planned sanctuary from the ultimate weapon, the atomic bomb. The sheer scale of the project is almost incomprehensible. This labyrinth was designed to house a staggering 6 million people, a number equivalent to the entire population of a major metropolitan area, all hidden beneath the earth. The network of tunnels is reported to stretch across more than 33 square miles, a hidden territory so vast it could contain its own infrastructure. This wasn't merely a series of bomb shelters. It was intended to be a fully functioning, self-sufficient replica of the city above. Blueprints and now open sections reveal plans for everything a society would need to survive for months, possibly years. There were designated areas for hospitals to treat the wounded, schools to educate children, theaters to maintain morale, and even specialized facilities like silk factories and mushroom farms to produce essential goods, all illuminated by thousands of permanently installed fluorescent lights. The most astonishing aspect of Dixia Cheng's story is how it was built. In an era before advanced tunneling machinery, this monumental task fell to the citizens of Beijing themselves. Ordinary people, students, factory workers, and government employees were mobilized in a massive, secretive excavation project. Using simple tools like shovels and picks, they dug out the hard earth by hand, moving millions of cubic meters of soil and rock, often working in shifts around the clock. The project was shrouded in such intense secrecy that many of the workers themselves may not have fully understood the ultimate purpose or complete scale of what they were creating. This clandestine nature has fueled decades of speculation and rumor. While a small section has been opened as a curious tourist attraction, with faded Cultural Revolution-era slogans still painted on the walls, the vast majority of the complex remains sealed off by authorities, inaccessible to the public and to researchers. This has led to persistent stories of much deeper, undiscovered levels, hidden command centers for the elite, and even secret tunnels connecting directly to government buildings like the Forbidden City. Historians today are deeply divided on the true purpose and effectiveness of this underground city. On one hand, it stands as a powerful symbol of the pervasive fear that defined the Cold War era, a tangible manifestation of the dig deep mentality that advised populations to prepare for nuclear confrontation. The construction itself was undoubtedly used as a potent propaganda tool, a physical demonstration of national unity, resilience, and preparedness against foreign threats. Yet, many experts seriously doubt whether Dixia Cheng could have ever served its intended purpose in a real attack. The logistical challenges of moving 6 million people underground in a matter of minutes would have been insurmountable. Furthermore, the ventilation systems and food storage capabilities, while impressive on paper, were likely inadequate to support such a massive population for any extended period. This leads to a compelling and enduring mystery. Was this immense undertaking a genuine, if flawed, effort to protect the populace, or was it primarily an elaborate exercise in psychological warfare and political theater, designed to project an image of strength and invulnerability both to its own citizens and to the outside world? The sealed tunnels beneath Beijing guard the answer, a secret buried not just in earth, but in the opaque politics of one of the world's most mysterious modern empires. Far to the east of Cappadocia, in the arid heart of central Iran, lies a subterranean marvel that presents a different kind of mystery, one born not from the fear of armies but from the relentless, unforgiving power of the desert itself. This is the ancient underground city of Nushabad, a place also poetically known as Aoi, meaning the deep well. For over 1,500 years, this hidden complex has slumbered beneath the dusty soil, a masterpiece of environmental adaptation that provided its inhabitants with a sanctuary from two equally deadly threats: the scorching sun above and the invading forces that might sweep across the plains. Unlike the vast, open halls of Derinkuyu, Nushabad feels more intimate and labyrinthine, a multi-level honeycomb of narrow, winding passages that twist and turn, seemingly designed to confuse and disorient any outsider who dared to venture inside without a guide. These corridors, often so tight that only one person can pass at a time, open up into a surprising variety of spaces, small family dwellings, communal gathering areas, and even what appear to be guard posts, all carved with remarkable precision from the hard, compacted earth. The true genius of Nushabad's builders, however, lies not in its defensive layout but in its revolutionary approach to climate control. In a region where surface temperatures can soar to unbearable heights, they engineered a natural air conditioning system of breathtaking sophistication. They achieved this by seamlessly integrating their underground city with a Qanat, which is an ancient network of underground water channels that tap into aquifer sources many miles away in the foothills of nearby mountains. This was no mere well. The Qanat was the lifeblood of the entire region, a miraculous feat of hydraulic engineering that brought fresh, cool water across the desert. The builders of Nushabad cleverly designed their subterranean levels to allow this cool, flowing water to pass through specific chambers. The effect was transformative. As the dry desert air entered the complex, it would circulate over these water channels, dropping in temperature and rising in humidity, creating a stable, comfortable microclimate deep underground. It was a perfect passive system that provided respite from the heat, preserved stored food, and offered a constant, reliable water supply, making long-term habitation not just possible but pleasant. Walking through these cool, silent passages today, it's easy to imagine the vibrant community that once thrived here. Archaeologists have unearthed compelling evidence of this daily life. Fragments of simple pottery used for cooking and storage, rusted metal tools that would have been used for carving and maintenance, and intriguing inscriptions on the walls that have yet to be fully deciphered. These artifacts suggest that Nushabad was not merely an emergency bunker to be used in times of crisis. It was a regularly inhabited space, a second city beneath the city where people would retreat during the brutal summer months or whenever danger appeared on the horizon. This dual purpose is what makes it so fascinating. Local folklore adds another layer of intrigue, whispering tales of the city, serving as a secret vault for the treasures of ancient Persian kings, a hidden stronghold where royal families could wait out a coup or a rebellion in complete safety. While no such legendary hoards have been discovered, the stories persist, fueling the imagination and suggesting that Nushabad's history is even richer and more complex than the physical evidence currently reveals. The enduring enigma is why such a clearly important and advanced settlement faded from common knowledge, its existence fading into myth until its accidental rediscovery by a local resident digging a well just 2 decades ago. It stands as a powerful monument to human ingenuity, a quiet, cool refuge carved from the earth that perfectly encapsulates our species' incredible ability to not just survive, but to ingeniously thrive within even the most challenging environments. From the sun-scorched deserts of Iran, our journey now takes us to a place of a different kind of heat, the damp, chilling cold of a northern European city, where history is not just buried by time, but literally built over and forgotten. High atop the dramatic cliffs of Castle Rock in Edinburgh, Scotland, the city's famous skyline tells a story of royalty, literature, and enlightenment. But directly beneath the feet of unsuspecting tourists and bustling crowds lies a far darker and more mysterious chapter, sealed away in the form of the South Bridge Vaults. Constructed in the late 18th century, specifically in 1788, the South Bridge was a monumental engineering project of its day, a 19-arch viaduct designed to span the Cow Valley and connect the High Street with the University District, effectively creating a new, elevated street level for the expanding city. The arches supporting this bridge were not simply filled in with rubble. They were bricked up to create a series of around 120 separate chambers, or vaults, intended for use as storage cellars, workshops, and taverns for the businesses operating on the bridge above. For a short while, that is exactly what they were, a bustling, if dimly lit, underground economy. This respectable purpose was tragically short-lived. The builders, in their haste and perhaps over-optimism, made a critical error. The stonework was poor quality, and the mortar used was cheap and porous, utterly incapable of resisting the relentless Scottish damp. Water began to seep through the walls and rise from the ground, creating a permanently wet, cold, and miserably unhealthy environment. The legitimate businesses, their goods ruined by mold and dampness, quickly abandoned the vaults for drier accommodations. This sudden vacancy created an opportunity for a very different kind of tenant. Almost overnight, the vaults were taken over by the city's most desperate and dangerous inhabitants. They transformed into a lawless subterranean slum, a hidden world of squalor and vice. The chambers became homes for the poorest of the poor, who huddled together in the darkness without light, sanitation, or fresh air. Illicit taverns known as shebeens served cheap, often poisonous alcohol, while other vaults operated as unlicensed brothels and hideouts for criminals, smugglers, and body snatchers who preyed on the graveyards of the city above to supply medical schools with cadavers. The conditions were beyond horrific. The air was thick with the stench of rot, human waste, and the smoke from countless open fires that could never properly ventilate. Disease ran rampant. Tuberculosis, cholera, and typhus were constant companions, claiming lives with terrifying speed. It was a place of profound suffering and desperation, a stark contrast to the intellectual and cultural revolution happening on the streets directly overhead. By the early 19th century, the authorities decided the problem was beyond solving. Rather than clean it out, they made the fateful decision to simply seal the vaults shut, bricking up the entrances and effectively burying this dark chapter alive. For over a century, the entire complex was forgotten, its existence fading into local myth and ghost story. It wasn't until the 1980s that the vaults were accidentally rediscovered during construction work, and proper archaeological excavations began. What they found was a time capsule of profound social history. The damp, anaerobic environment had perfectly preserved a stunning array of artifacts from this grim period. Fragments of pottery and glass from the long-gone shebeens, children's toys, buttons, pipes, and even the remnants of cooking pots, all telling silent stories of the lives that were lived and lost in the gloom. But the excavations also raised puzzling questions. Some walls and foundations appear far older than the 18th century South Bridge, constructed with techniques and materials that suggest a much earlier origin. This has led to a compelling theory that the bridge builders might have simply incorporated a pre-existing network of medieval tunnels or chambers that were already there, perhaps remnants of the city's earlier, more chaotic layout. If true, it means the vaults hold secrets within secrets, layers of history stacked upon each other. The most enduring mysteries, however, are the personal ones. Who were the individuals who sought refuge in this underworld? What tragedies led them there? And perhaps most eerily, are the stories true that their despair has left an imprint on the very stone, with visitors and researchers alike reporting inexplicable cold spots, feelings of being watched, and even apparitions that seem to belong to another time? The Edinburgh Vaults are not a mystery of ancient, lost civilizations, but a far more recent and human one, a raw archaeological nerve that reminds us that history is not always grand and noble, but often painful, forgotten, and waiting just beneath the surface to be understood. Leaving behind the damp, stone vaults of Edinburgh, we travel to a place where the very material of the underground world is not earth or rock. but something far more fragile and extraordinary. Imagine an island paradise in the warm, turquoise waters of the Persian Gulf, a place known for its pristine beaches and luxury resorts. This is Kish Island, a modern Iranian holiday destination. But beneath its sun-drenched surface lies a secret that defies all expectations, an entire city carved not from stone but from living coral. This is Karez-i-Kish, a subterranean marvel that spans an incredible 10,000 square meters, a labyrinthine complex whose origins stretch back over 2,500 years to a time when the Persian Empire was a dominant force in the ancient world. The sheer fact of its construction material is what first captures the imagination. Coral is not a soft, workable substance like the volcanic tuff of Cappadocia. It is a hard, brittle, and incredibly challenging material to shape with primitive tools. The decision to carve a city from it speaks to a unique set of circumstances and a breathtaking level of determination. The engineering prowess on display within Karez-i-Kish is a testament to the ingenuity of its unknown architects. The entire complex is a masterclass in harnessing the natural environment for human comfort and survival. The most striking feature is the beautiful, self-supporting arched ceilings that curve gracefully overhead, a design that not only provides structural integrity but also creates a sense of awe and grandeur. Strategically placed throughout the network are ventilation shafts known as badgers, which function like natural wind catchers. These cleverly designed channels would funnel the cool breezes from the surface down into the depths, ensuring a constant circulation of fresh air and preventing the atmosphere from becoming stale or stagnant. Even more ingenious was the integration of water management. The city sits atop a natural aquifer, and the builders expertly channeled this fresh water through a series of Qanats or underground canals. These waterways did more than just provide a vital drinking source. They acted as a natural cooling system, their presence lowering the ambient temperature to a pleasant and stable level, offering a refuge from the oppressive heat and humidity of the island's surface. This created a self-regulating ecosystem where the necessities of life, air, water, and shelter were all perfectly balanced. The central, unresolved question that hangs over Karez-i-Kish is its original purpose. Unlike the defensive strongholds of Turkey or the emergency shelters of Iran, this coral city does not readily betray its primary function. The presence of the sophisticated Qanat system strongly suggests it began as a massive water filtration and collection project, a vital piece of infrastructure to sustain life on an arid island. The cool, stable environment would have made it an ideal natural refrigerator, a perfect place to store perishable goods like food and valuable trade commodities, protecting them from spoilage in the tropical climate. This has led some historians to theorize it was a secure storage depot and trading hub, a place where merchants from across the ancient world could safely warehouse their goods. Others look to the layout and sense of grandeur, pondering if it might have held a deeper religious or ceremonial significance, perhaps as a sacred space connected to water worship or underground deities. The truth is, it was likely all these things at once, a multifunctional space that evolved over centuries, serving the practical, economic, and possibly spiritual needs of the diverse civilizations that called Kish Island home, from the Elamites to the Achaemenid Persians and beyond. The mystery deepens when we consider the practicalities of its construction. How did ancient workers without modern tools manage to excavate and shape this treacherous coral bedrock? The material is notoriously difficult to work with. It can shatter unpredictably and requires immense patience and skill to carve. What specialized tools did they develop? The preservation of the site for over 2 millennia is another puzzle. Coral is susceptible to erosion from water and shifts in the earth. The fact that these arched ceilings have not collapsed under the weight of the island above is a phenomenal achievement in structural engineering that we are only beginning to appreciate. In recent years, parts of Karez-i-Kish have been carefully renovated and opened to tourists, with walkways and gentle lighting allowing visitors to experience its eerie beauty. But these renovations have also, in a way, sealed off some of its secrets. The very process of making it safe and accessible may have obscured original features and archaeological clues that could have answered our lingering questions. Today, we walk through a space that is both ancient and modernized, a fascinating fusion of past and present that continues to guard the true intentions of its creators, a silent, coral-clad testament to a forgotten chapter of human innovation. Now, let us journey even further back in time, to an era before the pyramids of Egypt or the stone circles of Stonehenge, to a place where the line between the world of the living and the realm of the dead seems to have been intentionally blurred into shadow. On the Mediterranean island of Malta, buried deep beneath the quiet streets of the town of Paula, lies the Hal-Saflieni Hypogeum, a site so ancient and so profound that it literally redefines our understanding of prehistoric human achievement. This is not a city, nor a fortress, nor a shelter. This is something else entirely, a vast, three-level underground complex hewn directly from the living limestone, a sanctuary and a necropolis that was already thousands of years old when the great civilizations of antiquity were just beginning to stir. Its construction began around 6,000 years ago, in approximately 4,000 before the Common Era, making it one of the oldest known religious sites on the planet, a sacred space carved over centuries with an almost supernatural patience and devotion. To step into the Hypogeum is to step out of time itself. The air is heavy, cool, and still, and the silence is so profound it feels like a physical presence. The complex is a breathtakingly intricate maze of halls, chambers, and alcoves, all descending deeper and deeper into the earth. The uppermost level feels almost like a facade, with large, echoing chambers that may have been used for gatherings. But as you descend, the atmosphere shifts palpably. The second level is a labyrinth of more intimate, carefully finished rooms, some with beautifully carved imitations of the above-ground megalithic temples that dot the Maltese islands, complete with stone doorways and corbelled ceilings, as if the builders were recreating their sacred architecture in reverse, delving into the womb of the earth. And then you reach the lowest level, the deepest and most sacred chamber of all, known fittingly as the Holy of Holies. This is where the veil between worlds feels thinnest. The walls here are adorned with ancient, mesmerizing spirals and patterns painted in red ochre, symbols that recur across prehistoric Malta and speak a language we can no longer understand. Perhaps the most spine-tingling and inexplicable feature of the Hypogeum is its acoustics. Certain chambers, particularly the famous Oracle Room, possess extraordinary sonic properties. A deep, male voice spoken or chanted in a specific spot can produce a powerful, resonant echo that seems to vibrate through the very stone, reverberating through the entire complex in an otherworldly, hypnotic hum. This is not a random quirk of architecture. The precision of the carving suggests this effect was intentional, a carefully engineered tool for ritual. Imagine a ceremony taking place in near-total darkness, the only light coming from flickering oil lamps casting dancing shadows on the spiraled walls. A priest or shaman's chant would be amplified into an awe-inspiring, omnipotent sound that felt less like a human voice and more like the very earth itself speaking. This sonic vibration would have been a profoundly powerful sensory experience, capable of inducing trance-like states, reinforcing spiritual authority, and creating a direct, visceral connection to the divine for all those present. The scale of the endeavor is almost beyond comprehension. This entire complex, spanning multiple levels and covering a vast area, was carved using only the simplest of stone, bone, and antler tools. The builders had no metal, no advanced measuring devices, and no source of light beyond small clay lamps burning animal fat. The precision of the carving, the perfect curves of the arches, and the sheer volume of rock that had to be painstakingly removed and carried to the surface represent a monumental investment of communal effort spanning many generations. What could possibly have compelled a Neolithic society to dedicate such immense resources to a project that offered no tangible, material reward? The answer seems to lie in a world utterly consumed by spirituality and the cycle of life and death. The Hypogeum was first and foremost a burial site. The remains of over 7,000 individuals were discovered within its chambers, carefully placed in collective graves. This was not a place of fear, but of reverence, a sacred gateway where the deceased were returned to the earth, perhaps to be reborn, and where the living could commune with their ancestors and the powerful chthonic deities they believed governed their world. The mystery of the Hypogeum is compounded by the complete disappearance of its creators. The people who built this and the magnificent above-ground temples of Malta are known simply as the temple builders. They left no written records, no histories, and around 2,500 years before the Common Era, their culture vanished entirely from the archaeological record. We do not know why. There is no evidence of invasion, war, or catastrophic disease. They simply faded away, leaving behind these silent stone enigmas as their only testament. The Hypogeum itself was lost to the world for millennia, only accidentally rediscovered in 1902 by construction workers cutting cisterns for new houses. Its rediscovery was chaotic. Valuable archaeological context was lost in the initial excitement, and many of the artifacts and bones removed in those early years were poorly documented. This means we may never fully understand the intricate rituals that took place in its echoing halls. The Hypogeum stands as a haunting, beautiful, and deeply mysterious puzzle. It challenges our modern assumption that prehistoric people were simple hunter-gatherers concerned only with survival. Instead, it reveals a society of profound spiritual depth, sophisticated engineering skill, and a powerful, enduring fascination with the world beneath our feet. Yet for all the strategic genius on display, the human reality of life within the Qanat tunnels was one of almost unimaginable hardship and relentless psychological strain. Imagine existing in a world of perpetual darkness, a cramped, claustrophobic space where the air was thick with the smell of damp earth, sweat, and the constant, gnawing fear of discovery. The tunnels were not built for comfort, they were built for survival, and they were infested with vermin, venomous centipedes, and malarial mosquitoes. Soldiers and support personnel spent entire days and nights in these conditions, their world reduced to the narrow circumference of a flickering oil lamp. They suffered from a host of debilitating illnesses, skin fungi that festered in the constant dampness, respiratory infections from the poor air quality, and chronic parasites. The psychological toll was equally severe, with the ever-present threat of a sudden, violent death from above leading to immense stress and anxiety. To maintain morale and a sense of purpose, the tunnel dwellers became masters of psychological ingenuity. They created small, hidden vents that not only provided air but also allowed them to listen to radio broadcasts from Hanoi, connecting them to a wider world and a cause greater than their immediate suffering. They produced elaborate propaganda materials, including handmade newspapers and leaflets, right there in underground print shops, reinforcing their commitment and ideology. They even held cultural performances and political meetings in the larger chambers, a stunning act of normalcy in the most abnormal of environments. This intricate social and psychological structure, this ability to maintain a functioning military and a semblance of community under such extreme duress, is perhaps the greatest and least understood mystery of the Kukai network. It speaks to a level of human resilience and adaptability that continues to astonish historians and military strategists alike, a testament to the power of the human spirit even in the darkest of places. While the rose-red city of Petra is justly celebrated for its breathtaking facades like the treasury and the monastery, carved with impossible precision into the towering sandstone cliffs, these iconic structures are merely the surface-level prologue to a far deeper and more enigmatic story. The true genius of the Nabateans, the powerful desert traders who built this metropolis, lies not just in what they carved against the sky, but in what they concealed beneath the earth. Hidden from the casual visitor's eye is a shadow city of tunnels, chambers, and cisterns that worm their way through the bedrock, a subterranean counterpart to the splendors above. Behind the famous royal tombs and beneath the foundations of grand temples like the Qasr al-Bint, narrow, unassuming passageways slip away into the darkness, hinting at a vast, interconnected network that served as the hidden circulatory system of the entire city. For a civilization that mastered the art of controlling water in one of the world's most arid regions, creating an oasis in the desert, it seems only logical that their greatest innovations would be found underground, where the precious resource could be collected, stored, and protected from the evaporating sun. The Nabateans were, without question, hydrological wizards. Their ability to harness the scarce rainfall of the region is nothing short of miraculous. They constructed an intricate web of channels, dams, and cisterns that captured every drop of water from seasonal flash floods, channeling it through ceramic pipes and rock-cut aqueducts into massive underground reservoirs. The most compelling mysteries of Petra's underworld are inextricably linked to this water management. Recent archaeological surveys employing advanced ground-penetrating radar and LiDAR technology have begun to map the true extent of these subterranean features, revealing tantalizing evidence of cavities and tunnels that extend far beyond the currently explored areas. These scans suggest the existence of enormous, still-sealed cisterns, perhaps even large enough to have supplied the entire city during a prolonged siege, and a labyrinth of distribution tunnels that would have allowed water to be moved discreetly to different districts. This hidden infrastructure was the absolute key to Petra's power. It allowed the Nabateans to control the most vital resource in the desert, enabling them to support a large population, cultivate gardens, and offer respite to the caravans that fueled their wealth, making them the undisputed masters of the incense route. But was the function of this underground world purely practical? The evidence suggests a more complex, dual purpose. The same tunnels that carried water may have also served as secret escape routes for the elite in times of political unrest or invasion, allowing them to move unseen from one part of the city to another. Furthermore, the spiritual life of the Nabateans was deeply connected to the earth and its hidden forces. They worshipped deities like Dashara, a god often associated with mountains and the underworld, and Al-Azza, a goddess linked to water and vitality. It is highly probable that certain underground chambers, with their naturally cool, secluded, and awe-inspiring atmospheres, were used for sacred rituals inaccessible to the general public. These spaces might have been where initiation rites were performed, where oracles communicated with chthonic gods, or where the community gathered during times of spiritual significance. The recent discovery of a monumental platform buried near the city center, revealed only through LiDAR, points to the possibility of entire ceremonial complexes still waiting to be unearthed, structures that could rewrite our understanding of Nabatean religion. The enduring mystery of Petra's hidden chambers is a testament to the Nabateans' sophisticated understanding of both engineering and secrecy. They built a city that was as much a feat of illusion as it was of architecture, presenting a magnificent facade to the world while guarding its most vital organs and profound secrets deep within the rock. Every new scan, every cautious excavation peels back another layer, revealing not just empty tunnels but spaces filled with potential for understanding their advanced hydrology, their clandestine political maneuvers, and their rich spiritual world. The silence of these stone corridors holds the echo of a civilization that knew the value of what lies beneath, challenging us to look past the famous monuments and consider the profound, hidden depths that made their above-ground glory possible. If the catacombs of Paris represent a curated, albeit macabre, museum of the dead, then the labyrinth beneath the Ukrainian port city of Odessa is its wild, anarchic, and utterly untamable counterpart. This is not a single, planned structure but a sprawling, chaotic, and largely uncharted subterranean universe that defies comprehension. To grasp its sheer scale, consider this. At over 1,500 miles in total length, the Odessa catacombs form the largest network of tunnels in the entire world. If you could somehow lay them all out in a straight line, they would stretch from the coast of Ukraine all the way to the border of Spain. This is not an ancient wonder built for gods or kings. It is a colossal and accidental byproduct of human ambition, a negative space carved out of the earth that tells the raw, unfiltered story of a city built from the ground up and the countless lives that have played out in the shadows beneath it. The catacombs began their existence not as a sacred space or a strategic fortress, but as a simple, practical necessity. In the early 19th century, Odessa was experiencing a massive construction boom. Its elegant neoclassical buildings and bustling port facilities all requiring vast quantities of a specific, beautiful cream-colored limestone known as coquina. Quarrymen descended beneath the streets, extracting the valuable building blocks that would become the city above. Their method was known as room and pillar mining. They would carve out large chambers, leaving behind sturdy pillars of untouched rock to support the ceiling. The result was a growing, messy, and entirely unplanned maze directly beneath the developing metropolis. As the city expanded upward, its literal foundation was being hollowed out, creating a doppelganger of empty space, a phantom city of echoing halls and pitch-black corridors. When the easily accessible stone was exhausted, the quarries were simply abandoned, the entrances sealed or forgotten, leaving behind a dark and sprawling legacy that would soon take on a life of its own. This abandoned underworld quickly became a haven for those operating outside the law. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, the catacombs were the perfect base of operations for smugglers moving contraband through the port. The tunnels offered discreet access to the waterfront and countless hidden entrances throughout the city's basements and cellars. But the catacombs' most heroic and tragic chapter came during the Second World War, when Odessa was occupied by Romanian and German forces. Groups of Soviet partisans used the impenetrable maze as their secret headquarters. They knew the confusing passages intimately, using them to launch devastating guerrilla attacks on the occupiers and then vanish without a trace into the darkness. The Nazis, terrified of this invisible enemy beneath their feet, dedicated significant resources to trying to map and clear the tunnels, but to little avail. The partisans carved out entire underground bases, complete with printing presses for propaganda, makeshift hospitals, and storage for weapons and supplies. Life in these damp, cold confines was a special kind of hell, but it was a hell that helped harry a powerful invading army. The stories from this period are the stuff of legend, and many have passed into the realm of myth. There are tales of a dedicated group of young partisan scouts, known as the Catacomb Children, who used their small size to navigate the tightest passages and act as messengers and spies. Other accounts speak of a desperate final stand, where an entire unit of partisans chose to detonate their own ammunition cache rather than be captured, bringing a section of the tunnels down upon themselves and their pursuers. The line between fact and folklore here is permanently blurred because the catacombs themselves have fiercely guarded their secrets. The unstable, crumbling limestone and the constant risk of sudden collapses have made comprehensive archaeological study nearly impossible. Vast sections remain entirely unexplored and unmapped, a fact that has proven deadly for the modern-day urban explorers who are drawn to this underground frontier. Over the decades, numerous adventurers have become hopelessly lost in the featureless, twisting passages, their fates serving as a grim warning to others. Their stories and the persistent rumors of hidden partisan stashes of weapons or even treasure feed the mystique, making the Odessa catacombs a place of enduring danger and dark romance. What makes this labyrinth so uniquely compelling is its sheer, chaotic personality. It was never designed, it simply happened, and then was adapted and reused by generation after generation of outcasts, heroes, and criminals. It is a palimpsest of urban history, its walls scarred with graffiti from every era, from the crude chalk marks of lost quarrymen and the patriotic slogans of World War II partisans to the spray-painted tags of modern explorers. It is a place that has served as a refuge, a fortress, a tomb, and a playground. It represents the ultimate symbol of a city's hidden identity, a stark contrast to the sunny, orderly streets above. The catacombs are a physical manifestation of all the stories that never made it into the official history books, a silent, sprawling, and deeply unstable archive of Odessa's turbulent, defiant, and secretive soul. While the grand, sun-drenched facade of Ellora's Kailasa temple rightly captures the world's imagination as the largest single monolithic excavation on the planet, this UNESCO World Heritage Site holds an equally profound secret that lies not in its breathtaking upward sweep, but in its deliberate downward journey into the earth. The story of Ellora is often told through its 34 magnificent cave temples, a symphony in stone that showcases the religious harmony between Buddhism, Hinduism, and Jainism carved over 4 centuries. Yet, for every awe-inspiring pillar and deity sculpted into the open air, there exists a corresponding and often overlooked network of subterranean spaces that reveal a far more intricate and mysterious ambition. Beyond the main prayer halls and ornate courtyards, narrow, unassuming stairways descend into shadowy depths, leading to a hidden world of chambers, tanks, and passages that were clearly integral to the site's original design. These are not merely unfinished excavations or simple storage cellars. They are sophisticated, carefully engineered components of a broader subterranean agenda that suggests the builders of Ellora were as masterful in their understanding of what lay beneath as they were in their creation of the world above. The precision and purpose of these underground features are what truly confound historians. In several of the Buddhist caves, particularly in the earlier complexes like Cave 10, the Vishvakarma Cave, one can find intricate water management systems carved directly into the bedrock. These are not simple cisterns, but elaborate networks of channels and drains that would have collected precious monsoon rainwater from the surface, funneling it down into large, hidden underground storage tanks that ensured a year-round water supply for the resident monastic community. The engineering foresight is remarkable. These systems prevented flooding in the main halls during heavy rains, while simultaneously solving the critical problem of water scarcity in the dry season. In other areas, particularly in the later Hindu caves, the subterranean spaces take on a more enigmatic character. Small, cell-like rooms are found tucked away behind main shrines, often with no obvious entrance or exit, accessible only through narrow, concealed openings. Their walls are devoid of the elaborate carvings that adorn the public temples, suggesting they were not meant for congregation or display. The atmosphere in these chambers is one of intense quiet and isolation, a world away from the devotional grandeur of the main temples. This has led to compelling theories about their function. Many archaeologists propose these secluded spaces were used for deep meditation and tantric rituals, practices that required absolute privacy and separation from the distractions of the outer world. The constant, cool temperature and the profound silence of the underground would have provided an ideal environment for such spiritual pursuits. Other theories suggest a more practical purpose. These chambers could have served as secure storage for the temple's most valuable artifacts, ritual objects, and manuscripts, protecting them from the ravages of weather and potential invaders during times of political instability. The most intriguing possibility is that they formed part of a planned emergency retreat, a hidden sanctuary where monks and priests could vanish completely if the surface world became too dangerous. The strategic layout of some tunnels, which seem to connect different cave complexes, supports this idea of a clandestine escape network. The enduring mystery of Ellora's underworld is amplified by the complete absence of any contemporary written records detailing its construction or intended use. We have no manuals, no royal decrees, and no monastic diaries that explain why such immense effort was spent carving out these hidden spaces. The answers must be deduced from the stone itself. The sheer confidence of the excavations is staggering. The builders worked with an intimate understanding of the local basalt rock, knowing exactly how deep they could carve, how to integrate their designs with natural fault lines and rock formations, and how to create structures that have withstood earthquakes and over a millennium of monsoon seasons. This was not trial and error, it was applied geology of a very high order. This level of sophistication forces us to reconsider the capabilities of ancient Indian engineering and urban planning. It suggests a society that thought in three dimensions, viewing the subterranean realm not as separate from the sacred world above, but as a vital, complementary part of a holistic spiritual and practical landscape. The silent, cool chambers beneath Ellora's famous temples are a powerful reminder that for all we admire on the surface, the most profound secrets often remain hidden in the depths, waiting for us to descend and listen to their quiet, ancient story. While the colossal Pyramid of the Sun has dominated the skyline of Teotihuacan for nearly 2,000 years, silently watching over the Avenue of the Dead, its most profound secrets were not concealed in its towering heights, but buried deep within the earth upon which it stands. For centuries, this massive structure was thought to be just that, a solid earthen mound faced with stone, a monumental symbol of power reaching for the heavens. It wasn't until very recently, with the advent of revolutionary archaeological technology, that we began to understand this iconic pyramid is not solid at all. Hidden beneath its immense weight lies a secret world, a complex and deliberately constructed network of tunnels and chambers that snake through the bedrock, a subterranean twin to the grandeur above. This discovery has completely upended our perception of the pyramid, transforming it from a simple tomb or temple into something far more mysterious and conceptually complex, a gateway between the world of the living and the spiritual realm of the underworld. The initial clue came from a sophisticated technique called muon radiography, which essentially allows scientists to see through solid stone by measuring the density of cosmic particles passing through it. This scan revealed a startling anomaly, a large man-made cavity located directly beneath the pyramid's central altar at a depth of nearly 25 feet. Following this high-tech map, archaeologists carefully began to excavate, and what they found was a meticulously engineered tunnel, just wide enough for a single person to navigate, leading from the west face of the pyramid straight towards its heart. The tunnel's walls were not rough or haphazard. They were carefully sheathed in clay and reinforced in key areas, proving this was no natural fissure but a planned, sacred passageway. The journey down this corridor feels like a deliberate descent into another world, a ritualistic pathway moving away from the sun and into the symbolic earth. At the end of this tunnel lies the central chamber, and it is here that the mystery deepens exponentially. This space was not empty. It was a veritable treasure trove of sacred offerings, placed with clear intention over 2 millennia ago. Archaeologists unearthed a stunning collection of artifacts, finely carved greenstone masks whose empty eyes seemed to watch from the past, exquisite pottery vessels that likely held food and drink for the journey to the afterlife, obsidian blades used in ritual sacrifice, and strange, symbolic objects whose purpose we can only guess at. These were not casual grave goods. This was a dedicated cache, a sacred deposit meant to appease or communicate with powerful forces believed to reside in the world below. The quality and quantity of these items suggest this chamber was of paramount importance, perhaps the very spiritual center of the entire pyramid complex, the nucleus around which the entire massive structure was later built. This incredible find has ignited a fierce and fascinating debate among researchers. What was the true purpose of this hidden underworld? One compelling theory posits that the tunnel and chamber are a physical representation of the Mesoamerican concept of the underworld, known as Mictlan. In this belief system, the journey to the afterlife was a treacherous descent through 9 layers of a dark and challenging realm. The tunnel leading to the chamber could symbolize this very path, a place where rituals were performed to guide the souls of the dead or to allow priests to commune with deities and ancestors. The offerings support this, acting as provisions or payments for this perilous spiritual voyage. Another school of thought, however, looks to the practical genius of the Teotihuacanos, who were master hydrologists. They channeled water from distant springs through complex aqueducts to supply their huge city. Some researchers note the tunnel's alignment and suggest it could be linked to a natural water source or a sacred spring, making the chamber a place of water worship, honoring Tlaloc, the god of rain and fertility, who was central to their survival in the often arid Mexican highlands. It is also possible, and perhaps most likely, that the space served both functions simultaneously, a sacred nexus where the practical necessity of water met the spiritual journey of the soul. The engineering accomplishment itself is a mystery that rivals the spiritual one. How did the builders of Teotihuacan, who had no metal tools, no wheeled vehicles, and no draft animals, manage to carve this precise tunnel through solid bedrock? The answer lies in a technique we now call fire quenching. They would have built small, controlled fires directly against the rock face, heating it to a high temperature. Then they would suddenly douse the hot stone with water, causing it to crack and fracture. The weakened rock could then be painstakingly chipped away using harder stones like basalt or obsidian. This was an incredibly slow, dangerous, and labor-intensive process, requiring an immense amount of coordination and effort, all for a tunnel that very few people would ever see or use. This immense investment of labor for a hidden space speaks volumes about its perceived importance. The very act of its creation was likely a sacred duty in itself. Ultimately, the tunnels beneath the Pyramid of the Sun pull back a curtain on the sophisticated and profound worldview of the Teotihuacanos, a people who left no written records to explain themselves. They saw the universe not as divided into separate physical and spiritual realms, but as a single, integrated whole. The pyramid was not just a building pointing to the sky. It was a deeply rooted axis mundi, a cosmic center connecting the heavens, the earth, and the underworld in a continuous sacred conversation. The offerings in the chamber were the words of that conversation, and the tunnel was the path to have it. This hidden dimension reveals a society that understood power not just as something visible and towering, but as something also deeply buried, secret, and intimately connected to the foundational forces of the earth itself. Moving from the grand ceremonial centers of Mesoamerica, we find a different expression of underground ingenuity in the arid landscapes of the American Southwest, where the ancestral pueblones forged a profound and lasting bond with the earth itself. While the spectacular cliff dwellings of places like Mesa Verde and Cliff Palace capture the public imagination, clinging dramatically to canyon walls, these stunning surface structures represent only half of a much deeper story. The true spiritual and social heart of these communities often beat not in the open air, but in the quiet, cool darkness of subterranean chambers known as kivas. These were not mere holes in the ground. They were meticulously engineered circular rooms, often dug several feet deep and entered through a single hole in the roof by means of a ladder. This design was far from arbitrary. Descending into a kiva was a symbolic act, a deliberate journey from the everyday world of the sun into a sacred, womb-like space that connected the people to the spiritual foundations of their universe. The construction of a kiva was a community endeavor that demonstrated a sophisticated understanding of both engineering and symbolism. Builders would first excavate a large, circular pit, then line its walls with precisely fitted stone masonry. A key feature was the sipapu, a small, shallow hole in the floor that represented the portal through which their ancestors first emerged into this world from the underworld. This single element reveals the core of the kiva's purpose. It was a place of origin, return, and communication with the spiritual realm. A stone bench often ran along the perimeter, providing seating for ritual participants, while a central fire pit provided warmth, light, and a conduit for smoke and prayers to rise upward. The ventilation system was particularly ingenious. A carefully designed air shaft would channel fresh air from the surface down into the chamber, ensuring the fire had a steady oxygen supply while preventing the space from filling with smoke. This combination of practical necessity and deep spiritual metaphor is what makes these structures so captivating. The kiva was a physical model of the puebloan cosmos, a microcosm where the underworld, the earthly plane, and the sky above were all connected in a single harmonious space. What elevates the mystery from a single chamber to an entire hidden landscape is the discovery that many of these kivas were not isolated. In several major sites, archaeologists have found evidence of tunnels connecting them, suggesting a cohesive and intentional underground network. These narrow passageways, sometimes just wide enough for a single person to crawl through, linked ceremonial spaces to each other and possibly to other parts of the community. The purpose of these connections is a subject of lively debate. Some researchers propose they were purely practical, allowing religious leaders to move unseen between kivas during complex, multi-day ceremonies, preserving the sanctity and secrecy of certain rituals. Others suggest a more profound cosmological reason, that the tunnels represented the pathways that spirits or ancestral beings traveled beneath the earth. This created a literal underground map of their spiritual beliefs, mirroring the connections between different clans and their sacred stories. The very existence of this web implies a level of social and religious coordination that we are only beginning to comprehend, a shared sacred geography that was literally woven into the ground beneath their feet. This deep, intrinsic connection to the earth was not a philosophical abstraction for the ancestral pueblones. It was the cornerstone of their survival and their identity. Living in an unpredictable and often harsh environment where rain was scarce and the sun was relentless, their relationship with the land was one of profound interdependence. The earth was not just a resource to be used, it was a living, spiritual entity, a mother. She provided the clay for their pottery, the stone for their tools, and the seeds for their crops. By holding their most sacred ceremonies within her embrace, they were honoring this relationship, seeking to maintain balance and harmony with the forces that sustained them. The stable, cool temperature of the underground kiva also provided a practical reprieve from the desert heat, creating a comfortable environment for extended gatherings. This fusion of environmental adaptation and spiritual reverence is what makes these structures so unique. They were simultaneously the most advanced buildings in the community from an engineering perspective and the most deeply sacred, blurring the line between the practical and the divine in a way that continues to challenge our modern categories of thought. The enduring mystery that captivates historians and archaeologists is not just how they were built, but why this specific form of architecture became so central to their culture for centuries. What was it about the underground world that resonated so perfectly with their worldview? The answer seems to lie in a cosmology that saw the earth as the ultimate source of life and wisdom. While other cultures built soaring pyramids to reach the heavens, the ancestral Pueblones dug down, believing that the greatest powers and truths originated from within the earth itself. The kiva was a place to access those powers, to tell the stories of emergence, to pray for rain and fertility, and to pass on cultural knowledge from one generation to the next in a setting that reinforced their connection to their origin. The gradual abandonment of these great centers around the 13th century adds another layer of poignancy to their story. As communities dispersed, the kivas were sealed and left silent. Today, these quiet, circular spaces remain as powerful echoes of a people who found their center not in the world above, but in the sacred, nurturing darkness below, leaving behind a legacy of architectural genius that was always intended to be felt more than it was seen. While the catacombs of early Christians are Rome's most famous underground attraction, drawing millions of visitors each year, they are merely the top layer of a far deeper and more complex subterranean story. The true hidden wonder of the Eternal City lies in its countless other underground spaces, which form a vast, multi-level archive of history, one era literally built upon the last. Perhaps no single site captures this breathtaking stratification better than the Basilica of San Clement, just a short walk from the Colosseum. To step inside this unassuming church is to embark a vertical journey through time. The basilica you enter at street level is a beautiful 12th century place of worship with gleaming mosaics and a serene atmosphere. But descending a narrow staircase at the back reveals an entire 4th century church beneath it, its faded frescoes depicting early Christian stories. And descending even further down another set of stairs into the cool, damp air brings you to the most astonishing level of all, a 1st century Roman street, complete with the ruins of a pagan Mithraic temple and the echoing roar of an ancient aqueduct still carrying water after 2,000 years. This incredible layering is the key to understanding Rome's underground mystery. The city was not built over just once but repeatedly. Instead of clearing away the rubble of fires, invasions, or simply old buildings, Romans often just paved over the past and built anew on top of it. This practice created a perfect, sealed environment for preservation. The lower levels, deprived of oxygen and sunlight, became incredible time capsules. The network beneath San Clement is a perfect microcosm of this. On the lowest level, you can stand in the Mithraeum, a temple dedicated to the god Mithras, where initiates would have participated in secret rituals involving the symbolic slaughter of a bull. The stone altar and the benches where they reclined for ritual feasts are still there, frozen in time. Just next door, the constant, rushing sound of water emanates from a hidden channel, part of the massive aqueduct system that quenched the thirst of the ancient city, a marvel of practical engineering existing side by side with a space of intense spiritual significance. But the mysteries multiply as archaeologists continue to explore, using ground-penetrating radar and other non-invasive technologies. They are constantly discovering new tunnels and chambers that branch off from known sites. These aren't just random cavities, they tell a story of a city that used the underground for every conceivable purpose. There are vast quarries or tuffo mines where the very stone that built Rome was extracted, leaving behind cavernous halls that were later repurposed as everything from Christian chapels to medieval workshops. There are also the hypogeum of wealthy Roman families, elaborate underground tombs that were more like houses for the dead, decorated with beautiful stucco work and frescoes depicting scenes of daily life, suggesting a comfortable afterlife. And then there are the more sinister passages, clandestine tunnels used by early Christians for secret meetings when their religion was persecuted, and later, escape routes used by popes and nobles during the city's many sacks and sieges. The sheer scale of Roman underground construction boggles the mind. How did they accomplish it without modern machinery? The answer lies in a combination of incredible manpower, brilliant engineering, and the unique softness of the local volcanic rock called tuff, which is firm enough to hold its shape but soft enough to be carved with basic iron tools. Roman engineers were masters of understanding load distribution and structural support, employing arches and vaults to prevent collapses in their tunnels and quarries. They also had an almost obsessive drive for infrastructure, as seen in the aqueducts and the Cloaca Maxima, one of the world's earliest sewer systems, parts of which are still in use today. This network wasn't built under a single plan but accumulated organically over centuries, a hidden mirror of the city above, reflecting its changing needs, beliefs, and emergencies. The greatest mystery these layers hold is not about engineering but about the people themselves. The underground of Rome is a silent testament to the city's relentless evolution and its endless capacity for reinvention. A Mithraic temple becomes the foundation for a Christian church. A pagan tomb is sealed and forgotten, only to have a Renaissance palace built directly on top of it. A quarry that provided stone for imperial villas later becomes a bomb shelter during the Second World War. Every tunnel, every chamber contains a story of adaptation and survival. The ongoing archaeological work is like reading a history book where the pages are made of earth and stone, each turn revealing a new sentence, a new paragraph in the epic story of human civilization. Rome's underground isn't a separate entity. It is the city's memory, a living, breathing archive that continues to reveal its secrets one shovelful at a time, challenging us to reconsider not just the past, but the very ground upon which we walk. Tucked away in the Picardy region of northern France, far from the sun-drenched cliffs of Cappadocia or the coral labyrinths of Kish, lies the underground city of Nauruz, a place where the echoes of medieval life are inextricably intertwined with the poignant whispers of a much more modern conflict. While its origins are ancient, its story is uniquely layered, serving as a powerful bridge between the distant past and the living memory of the 20th century. Unlike many subterranean refuges built for a single, clear purpose, Nauruz embodies evolution itself, a complex that transformed over centuries from a simple industrial site into a hidden sanctuary, only to find its most dramatic role thousands of years after its creation, offering shelter to the weary soldiers of the First World War. The genesis of Nauruz, like so many of these underground wonders, begins with the Earth's own bounty. Starting around the 3rd century, local inhabitants began to quarry the region's soft limestone, a valuable building material used to construct the churches, homes, and fortifications of the surface world. For generations, miners carefully extracted the great blocks, leaving behind a sprawling network of empty chambers and galleries. But at some point, a profound shift in thinking occurred. Rather than simply abandoning these hollowed-out spaces, the people of the region saw their potential. They began to consciously expand the empty quarries, shaping them into something new. They carved out stable rooms for livestock, dug silos for storing grain, and even established small, intimate chapels with altars and pews all hewn from the living rock. This transition from extractive industry to communal habitation is a fascinating puzzle. Was it driven by the constant threat of invasion during the tumultuous 100 Years' War, or the religious conflicts that swept through France? Or was it a more practical response to the harsh economic realities of the time, offering a safe, temperature-stable place to live and work that was free from the burdens of surface-level taxes and feudal obligations? The answer is likely a combination of both, a slow-motion adaptation that turned a man-made cavern into a true underground village capable of sheltering over 3,000 people, complete with its own bakery, wells, and even a place of worship. For centuries, Naur slumbered in relative obscurity, a local secret known to the surrounding villages. Its memory faded after the 18th century as surface life became more stable, and the entrances were gradually reclaimed by nature, buried under soil and forgotten. Its dramatic rediscovery came not from archaeologists, but from the cataclysmic pressures of modern warfare. During the Great War, the Picardy region found itself brutally positioned on the front lines of the Western Front, a landscape utterly devastated by the relentless trench warfare between Allied and German forces. It was in this context of unimaginable destruction that Allied soldiers, often Australian tunneling companies or British engineers, stumbled upon the lost entrances to Naur. They uncovered a pre-made, perfectly preserved subterranean world, a godsend in a hellscape of mud and shellfire. Suddenly, this medieval refuge was thrust into a completely new role. The underground city became a crucial strategic hideaway and a rare sanctuary for troops rotating out of the front-line trenches. It was transformed into a secret barracks, a field hospital, and a communications center, safe from the artillery barrages that rained down above. The most enduring and touching legacy from this period are the thousands of inscriptions those soldiers left behind, carefully etched into the soft limestone walls. Walking through these chambers today is an intensely moving experience. The walls are a mosaic of names, service numbers, hometowns, and dates, a poignant graffiti left by young men from the other side of the world, from Melbourne, London, Winnipeg, and Auckland. They carved images of their regiment's insignia, sketched sentimental portraits of loved ones, and left behind their signatures as a simple, defiant statement of their existence in the face of overwhelming mortality. These inscriptions are not merely historical artifacts. They are raw, emotional time capsules, offering a deeply personal window into the minds of soldiers seeking a moment of peace and reflection deep within the earth, connecting their fleeting present to the enduring past of the very walls that protected them. This blend of ancient and modern is what makes Naur so uniquely mysterious for historians. The original medieval builders left no blueprints, no written records explaining their grand design or the social structure that governed life underground. The purpose of its immense scale remains debated. Was it a permanent dwelling for a portion of the population, or merely a seasonal refuge to be used in times of acute danger? The soldier graffiti, while invaluable for First World War historians, adds another layer of complexity. They provide a stunning social record of the early 20th century, but in doing so, they inevitably obscured older, fainter markings that might have held clues to the site's medieval use. The very act of its wartime rediscovery and use, while saving it from being lost forever, also forever altered its archaeological purity. Naur stands as a powerful palimpsest, a site where one layer of human experience has been directly written over another, separated by centuries yet connected by the universal human need for shelter and safety. It represents not one mystery, but two, the unknown story of its creation and the untold stories of the temporary inhabitants who found solace within its ancient walls, a silent testament to the fact that the need for a refuge from the storm above is a constant thread running through all of human history. Beneath the elegant boulevards and grand thermal bath houses of Budapest, often called the Pearl of the Danube, lies a secret world that is both a natural wonder and a historical archive, a sprawling labyrinth of caves that reveals a story of continuous human engagement with the underworld. This is not a single man-made city but a vast natural network of over 200 caves, formed over millions of years by the thermal waters that bubble up from the earth, carving intricate passageways through the limestone bedrock. What makes Budapest's underground so uniquely fascinating is the way this natural foundation has been endlessly adapted, reused, and reimagined by every generation that has lived above it, creating a multi-layered tapestry where the lines between geology and human history are permanently blurred. From the earliest prehistoric rituals to the darkest days of the Cold War, the caves have served as a constant, silent partner in the city's evolution, offering shelter, sanctuary, and strategic advantage, their purpose shifting with the needs of the era. This dynamic relationship begins in the deepest reaches of prehistory. Caves like the Paul Verge and Matthias Hegi systems show clear evidence of use by early humans, not as permanent dwellings but as temporary shelters and perhaps sacred spaces. Archaeologists have discovered ancient tool-making sites deep within these chambers, along with the bones of long-extinct animals like cave bears, suggesting that our ancestors ventured into the darkness to hunt or scavenge. The very act of descending into the earth, a place of constant temperature and profound silence, likely held a powerful spiritual significance for them, a connection to forces greater than themselves. These natural cathedrals, with their stunning stalactites and stalagmites formed over eons, set the stage for an enduring pattern. Humans were not just visiting this underground world, they were forming a bond with it, a relationship that would only deepen with time. As centuries passed and the city of Buda began to take shape on the cliffs above the Danube, the practical uses for the caves multiplied. The most famous adaptation is, without a doubt, the integration of the caves with the city's legendary thermal baths. The Jalayat Hill Cave, located directly beneath the iconic Jalayat Hotel and Baths, is a perfect example. This natural cavern was expertly incorporated into the bath complex, its warm, mineral-rich waters channeled into serene, underground pools. To step into this space is to experience a unique form of relaxation, where the opulent Art Nouveau design of the human world meets the ancient, dripping stone of the natural one. But beyond luxury, the caves also served more mundane purposes. The cool, stable temperatures made them perfect for aging wine and storing food, and an entire industry of cellar networks spread beneath the city streets, used by merchants and vintners for centuries. This seamless blending of utility and the natural environment shows a society that viewed the underground not as a separate realm, but as a functional extension of its own daily life. This functional relationship took a dark and dramatic turn during the turmoil of the 20th century. The same caves that offered cool storage for wine barrels were suddenly transformed into crucial shelters from the horrors of modern warfare. During the Second World War, the extensive cave systems were fortified and converted into bomb-proof hospitals, command centers, and factories. The entire Hungarian aircraft engine manufacturing industry was moved underground to protect it from Allied bombing raids, with thousands of workers laboring in the artificial light of the caverns. Later, during the tense standoff of the Cold War, the government further expanded these spaces into a network of nuclear bunkers designed to protect the political elite in the event of an atomic attack. These bunkers, some of which are now open to the public as museums like the hospital in the Rock, are chilling time capsules. They are filled with original medical equipment, communication devices, and stark, utilitarian furniture, preserving the palpable anxiety of the era within the cold, silent embrace of the stone. Walking through them, one is struck by the stark contrast between the ancient, natural formation of the cave and the stark, human-made machinery of survival bolted onto its walls. This incredible layering of history and purpose is what creates the central mystery of Budapest's underworld. In many sections, it is genuinely difficult to determine where nature's work ends and human modification begins. A seemingly natural arch might have been subtly widened centuries ago to allow for easier passage. A smooth section of wall might be the result of careful carving by medieval monks or the relentless scouring of thermal water. This interplay makes the caves a fascinating archaeological puzzle, where every feature must be carefully examined to untangle its origins. What has consistently driven the people of this city to return to the depths? The answer seems to be a combination of inescapable geography and a uniquely adaptive culture. The caves were simply there, a readily available resource that could be molded to meet an endless variety of human needs, from spiritual seeking to economic gain, from leisurely bathing to desperate survival. They provided a constant, free, and incredibly durable infrastructure that the city above could always rely upon in times of both peace and crisis. This has fundamentally shaped Budapest's identity, making it a city that is quite literally built upon its own history, a place where the boundary between the natural world and the human one is more permeable than almost anywhere else on Earth. The caves are the city's subconscious, holding all the memories, fears, and innovations that have ever occurred there, waiting just beneath the surface to be explored. Leaving behind the ancient quarries of France and the thermal caves of Budapest, we travel to a landscape that feels almost otherworldly, a sun-blasted, red desert in the heart of South Australia, where the ground is scarred with the telltale mounds of thousands of individual mine shafts. This is Kuba Pedi, a name derived from the Aboriginal words Kupa Piti, which translate ominously yet accurately to white man's hole in the ground. But what makes this modern mining town a true subterranean mystery is not the precious opals pulled from its depths. It is the fact that the majority of its inhabitants don't just work underground, they live there. In a stunning example of contemporary adaptation, the people of Kuba Pedi have chosen to escape the brutal, often unbearable desert heat by carving their entire lives into the soft sandstone bedrock, creating a vibrant, functioning 20th century city that exists almost entirely beneath the surface, a direct and powerful echo of the ancient practices we've seen across the globe. The driving force behind this unique lifestyle is the environment itself. The climate in this part of Australia is extreme, with summer temperatures frequently soaring well over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and dust storms that can sweep across the plains with little warning. Early miners who flocked to the area after the first opal was discovered in 1915 quickly realized that the mines they were digging offered more than just wealth, they offered shelter. The underground provided a natural, year-round climate control system. The temperature beneath the surface remains a constant, comfortable 73 degrees, regardless of the scorching heat or chilling cold above. This practical discovery led to a grassroots architectural movement. Instead of building houses, the residents of Kuba Pedi began to dugouts, excavating spacious, multi-room homes directly into the hillsides. These are not crude, dark hovels. They are fully modern residences with living rooms, kitchens, and bedrooms, all featuring smooth, curved walls and ceilings that require no additional plaster or drywall. The effect is a cozy, cave-like ambience that is both energy-efficient and strikingly beautiful. This practical solution quickly evolved into a full-fledged subterranean society. Today, visitors to Kuba Pedi can experience this unique way of life firsthand. There are underground hotels where guests sleep in perfectly quiet, pitch-black rooms, and restaurants where you can enjoy a meal surrounded by the natural texture of the carved rock. Perhaps most remarkable are the town's underground churches, like the Serbian Orthodox Church of St. Elijah and the Catholic Church of St. Peter and Paul. These are not merely functional spaces, they are places of profound serenity and artistry, their altars and pews meticulously carved from the living stone, illuminated by soft electric lights that gleam off the natural mineral veins in the walls. The community even boasts an underground bookstore and an opal gallery, proving that every facet of modern life has been successfully transplanted below. This raises a fascinating question for historians and anthropologists. If the impulse to build underground is so often linked to ancient survival instincts, to hide from persecution or war, what does it mean when a modern community chooses it primarily for comfort and sustainability? Kuba Pedi suggests that the drive to live within the earth is not just a relic of a dangerous past, but a viable and intelligent response to environmental challenges, a form of adaptation that is both timeless and strikingly modern. Beneath the familiar, everyday rhythm of this modern dugout life lies a deeper, more tantalizing layer of mystery. The entire town is underlain by a chaotic, largely unmapped web of old opal mines, shafts, tunnels, and chambers that were dug by hand over the last century and then abandoned when the seams played out. It is not uncommon for a resident to be enlarging their home and accidentally break through a wall into a neighboring mine shaft they never knew existed, discovering a forgotten space filled with the ghostly remnants of a past miner's hopes. Old pickaxes, rusting food tins, and perhaps even a dusty bottle of whiskey left behind. These stories of hidden tunnels and secret chambers fuel local legend and add a palpable sense of adventure to daily life, a reminder that the town is literally built upon layers of its own history. This has led some to wonder if the human history of this area might go back much further than the 20th century. The Aboriginal peoples of Australia have inhabited this continent for over 65,000 years, possessing a deep and sophisticated knowledge of the land. While no definitive evidence has yet been found, historians and local indigenous elders speculate that there could be older, sacred sites or shelters in the area that were used for thousands of years before the arrival of European miners. The same environmental logic that appealed to the opal diggers, the constant temperature and protection from the elements, would have been just as compelling to the first Australians. The possibility that Kuba Pedi might be sitting atop a much older, spiritual subterranean landscape adds a profound dimension to its story, connecting this very modern town to an ancient, continuous human relationship with the Australian earth. Ultimately, Kuba Pedi stands as a powerful, living laboratory for understanding the timeless human impulse to go underground. It demonstrates that this choice is not necessarily born from fear or desperation, but can be a conscious, rational, and even luxurious adaptation to a challenging environment. It is a community that has willingly turned its back on the traditional idea of a house with a roof and a yard, instead embracing the earth itself as its shelter. In doing so, it offers a compelling model for sustainable living in an era of increasing climate uncertainty, showing how we can work with the natural world to create comfortable habitats without relying heavily on energy-intensive heating and cooling systems. The town is a testament to human ingenuity and resilience, a place where the lines between home and mine, between the ancient past and the modern present, are permanently blurred. It challenges us to expand our definition of what a city can be and reminds us that the appeal of the underground is not confined to history books. It is a living, breathing, and ever-evolving reality. While the iconic pyramids of Giza have mesmerized humanity for millennia, their silent, sloping forms pointing toward the heavens, a far more enigmatic story may lie not in their majestic heights, but in the uncharted darkness directly beneath them. The sands of the Giza Plateau have long whispered of a hidden world, a labyrinth of tunnels and chambers that could potentially rival or even surpass the wonders we see on the surface. These are not mere modern fantasies. The idea of a subterranean Giza is deeply rooted in antiquity. The famed Greek historian Herodotus, writing in the 5th century before the Common Era, recorded stories told to him by Egyptian priests about a massive underground complex located near the Great Pyramid. He described a colossal labyrinth containing 3,000 rooms, 1,500 above ground and an equal number below, a place so immense and confusing that no one could navigate it without a guide. Although he was likely describing a structure in the Fayum region, his account cemented the concept of vast Egyptian underground works in the Western imagination, an idea that has stubbornly persisted for 2,500 years. This ancient testimony has found a curious echo in the modern era through the power of technology. In recent decades, sophisticated remote sensing surveys, including ground-penetrating radar and microgravimetry, have scanned the plateau, revealing tantalizing anomalies that suggest Herodotus's stories might have contained a kernel of truth. These scans have detected several intriguing voids and cavities in the bedrock beneath the sand, including a significant void located directly behind the north face of the Great Pyramid, and another, much larger chamber-like space deep beneath the descending passageway. Perhaps the most compelling evidence comes from a survey that identified a mysterious corridor-like structure running just beneath the surface of the plateau, starting near the Great Pyramid and leading towards the tomb of a pharaoh from the Second Dynasty, 1,000 years older than the pyramids themselves. These scientific hints have fueled a firestorm of speculation, giving rise to a spectrum of theories that range from the plausible to the truly fantastical. Mainstream Egyptology, while acknowledging these anomalies, approaches them with cautious skepticism. The leading hypothesis is that these spaces are most likely natural geological features, fissures in the limestone bedrock or pockets of weaker stone, or perhaps unfinished and abandoned construction pits from the monumental building projects themselves. Any man-made chambers are logically thought to be additional, undiscovered burial tombs for high-ranking officials or royal family members, or possibly storage areas for ritual objects and building supplies. This view is grounded in a methodical, evidence-based approach that has served the discipline well, but it deliberately avoids the more dramatic possibilities that capture the public's imagination. The restrictive policies of the Egyptian authorities, who understandably prioritize the preservation and security of their most iconic site, have limited extensive excavation, meaning these scientific mysteries remain unresolved, a blank canvas upon which more adventurous ideas can be projected. It is this lack of access and definitive answers that has allowed alternative theories to flourish. Some researchers, pointing to the incredible precision and alleged astronomical alignments of the Giza complex, propose that the underground chambers could be a repository of ancient knowledge, a legendary hall of records, as described by the psychic Edgar Cayce, said to contain the lost wisdom of the mythical civilization of Atlantis. Others suggest the voids could be evidence of far more advanced technology than we credit the ancient Egyptians with, perhaps even machinery related to the pyramids' speculated energy transmitting capabilities. These ideas, while dismissed by academia, speak to a deep and enduring human desire for the plateau to hold even grander secrets, for history to be more mysterious and magnificent than our textbooks allow. They represent a form of modern myth-making, a testament to the powerful allure of the unknown. The true mystery of Giza's potential underworld, therefore, is as much about our relationship with the past as it is about archaeology. It forces us to confront the limits of our knowledge and the boundaries between rigorous science and compelling speculation. Every unscanned pocket of Earth, every restricted excavation permit, and every ambiguous radar reading adds another layer to the legend. What ultimately lies beneath the sands is a question that may remain unanswered for generations, a secret guarded as much by modern bureaucracy and preservation ethics as by the stone and sand itself. This enduring enigma ensures that the Giza Plateau will continue to be a place not just of awe for what we can see, but of endless wonder for what we can only dream lies hidden in the darkness below. From the sun-drenched deserts of Australia, we journey now to the cool, crystalline depths of southern Poland, to a place where the very substance of the earth was transformed from a simple mineral into a breathtaking spiritual and artistic sanctuary. The Wieliczka salt mine, on the surface, presents itself as a monument to industry, a functional mine that produced table salt continuously from the 13th century until 2007. But to descend its wooden staircases, descending nearly 400 meters into the earth, is to discover something far more wondrous and perplexing. This is not a mere network of tunnels. It is a vast underground city sculpted entirely from salt, a subterranean realm that has been painstakingly carved over nearly 800 years into a labyrinth of awe-inspiring chapels, lifelike statues, and even glittering ballrooms, all hidden deep beneath the Polish countryside. The mine is a stunning paradox, a place where the gritty, dangerous work of extraction somehow gave birth to one of the world's most unexpected and moving artistic masterpieces, leaving historians to ponder the profound human impulse that drives creativity even in the most confined and challenging of environments. The sheer scale of the artistic endeavor within Wieliczka is almost incomprehensible. The mine stretches for over 178 miles of tunnels spread across 9 levels, and within this vastness, miners carved out more than 2,000 chambers. Among these are dedicated spaces of breathtaking beauty. There is an entire underground cathedral, the Chapel of St. Kinga, which is larger than many small village churches on the surface. Every single element of this chapel, from the altars and pulpit to the intricate bas-relief scenes depicting biblical stories like the Last Supper, has been carved directly into the rock-salt walls. Elaborate chandeliers hang from the ceiling, their crystals meticulously fashioned from dissolved and recrystallized salt that catches the light like 1,000 tiny diamonds. Beyond the chapel, the tunnels open up into vast caverns where statues of mythical figures, historical Polish kings, and even the mine's own legendary founders stand guard in the semi-darkness. There is even an underground lake, its still, briny waters reflecting the carved arches above, creating a scene of surreal and silent beauty. This was not the work of a few dedicated artists, but a collective project that spanned generations of miners who would spend their free hours, often by the dim light of their headlamps, patiently chiseling away at the salt rock, transforming their workplace into a gallery. The central, enduring mystery of Wieliczka is not how they did it, but why. What compelled these men, after long and exhausting shifts of backbreaking labor, to pick up their tools again and engage in what seems like an almost superhuman effort of artistic creation? The most straightforward explanation is deep religious devotion. For centuries, miners worked in a profession fraught with constant, invisible danger. Cave-ins, methane gas explosions, and floods were ever-present threats. In such an environment, turning to divine protection was a natural and powerful response. The chapels served as places for daily prayer before starting a shift, asking for safety and giving thanks for a safe return to the surface. The artwork often depicts protective saints and scenes of salvation, serving as a perpetual plea for mercy and a reminder of faith in the darkness. But the motivation likely ran even deeper than supplication. The act of creation itself may have been a vital psychological tool for maintaining morale and a sense of identity. By carving beautiful and familiar figures from their faith and their culture, the miners were asserting their humanity in a profoundly inhuman environment. They were bringing light, order, and meaning into the chaotic, dark, and unpredictable world of the mine. It was a way to combat fear, boredom, and despair, to leave a permanent mark that testified to their presence and their spirit long after their shifts had ended. This blurring of the line between sacred and secular is what makes Wieliczka so uniquely fascinating. While the chapels are the most famous features, the miners also carved scenes from their own daily lives, mythical dragons and dwarves from local folklore, and even a full-size statue of Copernicus, who is said to have visited the mine. This suggests the artistic impulse was not solely dedicated to religion, but was also an expression of cultural pride, a form of storytelling, and a simple celebration of the human capacity for wonder. The mine became a living archive of Polish history and identity, its walls recording not just prayers but the changing faces of its people and their stories. The very material they worked with, the salt itself, held a dual significance. In the past, salt was an immensely valuable commodity, often referred to as white gold, and it was crucial for preserving food. This gave it a symbolic connection to preservation and immortality. By carving enduring art from this precious substance, the miners may have felt they were preserving their own souls and their community's spirit for eternity, creating a legacy that was both materially and spiritually priceless. The evolution of Wieliczka from a purely industrial site to a protected UNESCO World Heritage Site and a major tourist attraction is a story in itself. For centuries, this underground world was known mainly to the miners and the local community. As its artistic wonders became more widely recognized, it gradually transformed into a place of pilgrimage and curiosity. Today, it stands as a powerful challenge to our modern separation of work and art, of practicality and beauty. It forces us to ask whether such a profound artistic output could ever emerge from our own sanitized, safe, and efficiency-driven workplaces. The mind suggests that creativity is not a luxury to be pursued only in leisure time, but a fundamental human need that can flourish even under the most constrained circumstances, often as a direct response to those very constraints. The silent, salt-carved saints and the glittering chapels of Wieliczka are a timeless testament to the indomitable human spirit, a profound reminder that even in the deepest darkness, we have an irrepressible urge to create light, to make meaning, and to leave behind something beautiful that speaks of our existence. While the towering moai of Easter Island have long stood as silent, stoic sentinels capturing the world's imagination, their famous, enigmatic gaze towards the horizon tells only half of the Rapa Nui story. To truly understand this isolated society, one must also look down into the island's hidden underworld, a sprawling, natural network of lava tube caves that twist and turn beneath the grassy surface. These subterranean spaces, formed by ancient volcanic activity, were far more than just geological features to the Rapa Nui people. They were an integral, living part of their culture, serving as shelters, workshops, burial chambers, and possibly even sacred ceremonial spaces that provided a crucial counterpoint to the monumental achievements above ground. This intricate relationship between the visible and the hidden adds a profound new layer of complexity to the island's history, suggesting that the society's identity was rooted as deeply in the earth as it was in the skyward-reaching stone figures. The formation of these caves is a dramatic story in itself. Thousands of years ago, as molten lava flowed from the island's volcanoes towards the sea, the outer surface of these rivers would cool and harden into a solid crust, while the still molten rock inside continued to flow, eventually draining away and leaving behind long, hollow tunnels. Over time, sections of these tunnels collapsed, creating accessible entrances to a dark, cool, and extensive labyrinth. For the Rapa Nui, who arrived on the island around 1200 years ago, these ready-made caverns were a gift from the geological gods. They provided immediate and vital refuge from the sometimes harsh Pacific elements, the intense sun, strong winds, and tropical storms, but their use quickly evolved far beyond simple shelter. Archaeologists have discovered that different caves were designated for highly specific purposes. Some, with wide entrances and stable floors, were transformed into permanent or seasonal living quarters, with evidence of hearths, sleeping areas, and storage pits for precious food like sweet potatoes and dried fish. Other caves, particularly those with narrow, difficult-to-access entrances or particularly eerie internal formations, took on a more spiritual significance. These were used as burial chambers where the bones of the deceased were carefully laid to rest in the protective, womb-like darkness of the earth. The most tantalizing caves are those adorned with petroglyphs, mysterious carvings etched into the cave walls depicting birdmen, tuna fish, sea turtles, and mythical figures. The presence of these symbols in the pitch-black depths, far from any casual view, strongly suggests they were used for rituals, initiations, or communication with the ancestor spirits, or Akuaku, who were believed to inhabit the underworld. In these sacred spaces, the darkness itself would have been a powerful tool, heightening the senses and making the flickering light of a torch illuminate the carvings in a dynamic, living dance of shadow and stone, creating an atmosphere of awe and reverence that is hard to replicate in the open air. This creates a compelling duality at the heart of Rapa Nui culture, a society seemingly pulled between two powerful forces, the mana or spiritual power of the towering, sun-drenched moai, and the hidden, chthonic energy of the underground realm. The moai, representing deified ancestors, were all about visibility, status, and connection to the world of the living. They faced inward, watching over the villages and platforms. The caves, by contrast, were about concealment, protection, and connection to the world of the dead and the earth spirits. This wasn't necessarily a conflict, but rather a balance, a symbiotic relationship between what was displayed for all to see and what was guarded in secret. Some researchers propose that the same elite class that directed the carving and transportation of the moai also controlled access to the most significant ritual caves, using both forms of power, the visible and the hidden, to maintain their authority and spiritual legitimacy. The resources and labor needed to erect the massive statues are well documented, but the intellectual and spiritual energy invested in navigating and utilizing the underground landscape was likely just as critical to their worldview. The ultimate collapse of Rapa Nui society, often oversimplified as a story of ecological ruin and internecine warfare, makes the mystery of the caves even more poignant. As resources became scarce and the social structure fractured in the centuries before European contact, the role of the caves may have shifted dramatically from places of ritual and community to desperate refuges for survival. There is evidence that during this turbulent period, known as the Time of the Spearheads, many caves were fortified with stone walls, turning their entrances into defensible positions against rival clans. The very places that once held sacred bones and rituals of life became strongholds in a brutal struggle for existence. This desperate adaptation adds a tragic layer to their story. The petroglyphs carved in hope and reverence now look down upon families hiding in fear, their meaning perhaps forgotten in the struggle for daily survival. The final, unanswered question that haunts these silent chambers is whether the deep knowledge of the caves, the locations of hidden water sources, secret gardens, and safe routes, was enough to save some groups, or if this underground wisdom was ultimately lost in the societal unraveling, becoming one more forgotten secret in the island's long, enigmatic history. High atop the rugged mountains of northern Ethiopia, in a place where the air feels thin and the sky seems closer to heaven, lies the sacred town of Lalibela, a site that stands as one of the most profound acts of faith ever carved into the face of the earth. While the 11 magnificent rock-hewn churches are rightly celebrated as an UNESCO World Heritage Site and a wonder of the Christian world, their awe-inspiring facades are only the beginning of the story. For beneath the surface of this holy ground lies a second, hidden city of tunnels, trenches, and subterranean passageways that weave between the churches like sacred arteries, connecting them into a complex spiritual labyrinth. These are not crude crawl spaces or simple drainage channels. They are an integral part of Lalibela's design, a network of processional pathways and symbolic gateways that transform the entire town into a massive, three-dimensional model of the Holy Land itself, a new Jerusalem for Ethiopian believers. The sheer ambition of Lalibela's construction is enough to stagger the mind. In the 12th and 13th centuries, under the direction of King Lalibela, a massive workforce began the monumental task of carving not just buildings, but entire landscapes from the living volcanic rock. Instead of building upward, they worked downward, using nothing more than hammers, chisels, and an unimaginable amount of human labor to first trench deep into the red tuff, isolating giant blocks of stone. Then, with painstaking precision, they hollowed out these blocks to create the churches, carving intricate interiors complete with pillars, altars, windows, and vaulted ceilings, all from a single, continuous piece of rock. The result is a series of structures that appear to have been excavated from the earth rather than built upon it, giving the entire complex a feeling of both immense weight and miraculous lightness. But the genius of the architects extended beyond the churches themselves. They also carved a vast network of ceremonial courtyards, connecting trenches and tunnels that run for dozens of meters, some wide and solemn, others so narrow and low that pilgrims must bow deeply to pass through, enacting a physical form of reverence and humility on their journey between sacred spaces. The purpose of this intricate underground web is the source of much fascination and debate. The most straightforward explanation is practical. The trenches and tunnels serve as drainage for the heavy seasonal rains, preventing the churches from flooding. Yet their design suggests a far more profound, symbolic intention. Many scholars believe the entire layout is a topographical representation of Jerusalem. The group of churches divided by a rock-cut channel known as the River Jordan corresponds to the earthly Jerusalem, while another group symbolizes the heavenly Jerusalem. The tunnels in this reading become the symbolic pathways connecting the two, a physical manifestation of the spiritual journey a believer must undertake. Some passages are said to lead to hidden caves used by hermits for solitary prayer and asceticism, while persistent local legends whisper of even deeper, sealed tunnels that connect to distant, secret monasteries or contain the lost treasures of the Zagwe dynasty. These stories, while unproven, speak to the deep aura of mystery that surrounds the site, a sense that even today we are only seeing the surface of its sacred secrets. This mystery is preserved in part by profound religious reverence. For Ethiopian Orthodox Christians, Lalibela is not a frozen museum piece. It is a living, breathing center of worship. The tunnels and churches are active places of prayer, ceremony, and pilgrimage. This sanctity means that large-scale archaeological investigation, especially invasive digging or ground-penetrating radar that might be used elsewhere, is often restricted or approached with extreme caution. To disturb the earth is to potentially disturb a sacred relic or a space still used for quiet contemplation. Consequently, the full extent of the subterranean network remains unknown. Priests and monks who serve as the guardians of the churches hold the deepest knowledge of the tunnels, their uses, and their histories, but this knowledge is often considered part of an oral, spiritual tradition, not something to be mapped and published for the outside world. This interplay between faith and stone is what makes Lalibela's underground so uniquely captivating. The tunnels are not merely architectural features, they are a fundamental part of the religious experience. To walk through them is to participate in a ritual that is centuries old. The act of moving from the brilliant sunlight of the courtyards into the cool, dim, and confined space of a tunnel is a powerful sensory metaphor for moving from the profane world into a sacred, introspective state of mind. The darkness, the sound of one's own footsteps echoing off the stone, the feel of the rock worn smooth by countless hands, all of it is designed to focus the pilgrim's thoughts on prayer and the journey of the soul. The engineering, therefore, was never just about moving people from point A to point B. It was about guiding them on a spiritual pilgrimage, using the very structure of the earth to create a tangible pathway to divine connection. Lalibela stands as a stunning testament to a faith so powerful that it literally moved mountains, carving a heavenly kingdom out of solid rock, and ensuring that its most profound mysteries would remain, quite literally, grounded in the earth for all time. Beneath the gleaming skyscrapers and bustling coffee shops of modern Seattle lies a ghostly echo of the city's gritty, chaotic, and ambitious past, a sprawling network of abandoned tunnels that tells a story of disaster, reinvention, and secrets willingly forgotten. This hidden underworld wasn't born from ancient rituals or defense against invaders, but from one of the most destructive urban fires in American history. On June 6, 1889, a pot of glue boiling over in a cabinet maker's shop sparked a blaze that quickly raged out of control, fueled by wooden buildings and sawdust streets. In less than 12 hours, 31 entire city blocks of downtown Seattle were reduced to smoldering ash. From this catastrophic loss emerged a radical opportunity. City leaders, determined to rebuild a more resilient and modern metropolis, made two revolutionary decrees. All new downtown buildings must be constructed of stone or brick, and the entire street level would be raised by anywhere from 8 to 32 feet. This was an audacious plan to solve the city's chronic flooding issues and improve sanitation, effectively building a new city on top of the old one. The creation of this new ground level gave birth to the tunnels. As construction crews began the Herculean task of regrading the steep hills and building massive retaining walls, they left behind a confusing maze of vacant spaces beneath the newly raised sidewalks and streets. These weren't intentionally built tunnels at first. They were the unintended negative space between the old ground floor and the new one. For a brief period, these spaces became an unexpected and vibrant part of the city's daily life. Glass sidewalk skylights, known as vault lights, were installed to funnel natural light down to the lower level, which quickly became a bustling commercial district in its own right. Shoppers could descend staircases from the new street level to a shadowy but active world below, where businesses set up shop in what had formerly been the first-floor entrances of the pre-fire buildings. This lower level hosted a fascinating array of enterprises, legitimate storefronts, barbershops, taverns, and a constant flow of people moving goods and themselves through this unique urban landscape. It was a practical, if strange, solution that showcased Seattle's characteristic hustle and ingenuity. However, this period of dual-level living was short-lived. As the city modernized, the underground spaces became associated with a much darker and less sanitary reality. The plumbing systems of the old first floors were now buried and inaccessible, leading to chronic issues with leaks and unsanitary conditions. The Chamber of Commerce and city government, eager to project an image of a clean, progressive, and modern city, began to actively discourage use of the lower level. One by one, the businesses were shuttered, the staircases were boarded up, and the vault lights in the sidewalks were paved over with asphalt, plunging the underground city into permanent darkness. It was effectively entombed, left to be forgotten by a city racing toward its future. But nature abhors a vacuum, and so does urban life. The abandoned tunnels, now sealed off from legitimate society, were soon claimed by a very different clientele. They became a haven for illicit activities, a classic urban underworld in the most literal sense. During the Prohibition era, speakeasies and illegal bars flourished in the hidden chambers, their patrons entering through secret passages connected to the basements of legitimate businesses above. The tunnels provided perfect cover for bootleggers to move their contraband unseen by police. They also became a refuge for the city's most marginalized populations, the homeless, the addicted, and those simply seeking to disappear from the world above. This hidden history is preserved today not in official city records, which are often frustratingly sparse on the subject, but in the fragments and rumors passed down through generations. Urban explorers who have ventured into the sealed sections, often at great personal risk, tell stories of finding perfectly preserved turn-of-the-century storefronts, their faded signs still legible in the beam of a flashlight. There are tales of old hotel rooms frozen in time, with furniture still in place under a thick layer of dust, and medical offices abandoned with jars of unknown substances still sitting on shelves. The most persistent and chilling legends, however, speak of a more permanent and tragic population. Local lore suggests that not everyone who descended into the tunnels for shelter or secrecy ever came back out. Stories circulate of people becoming lost in the unmapped labyrinth, of unstable collapses trapping individuals, and of the tunnels being used for far more nefarious purposes than just smuggling alcohol. These unverified tales have given rise to a rich culture of ghost stories, with reports of shadowy figures, disembodied voices, and an overwhelming sense of sorrow clinging to the damp, silent air in the deepest, most isolated passages. The great mystery for historians isn't just what the tunnels were used for, but the sheer scale of what remains unknown. While a section of the underground has been safely renovated and opened as a popular tourist attraction, this represents only a tiny fraction of the total network. Vast stretches remain completely sealed off, inaccessible behind brick walls or collapsed under the weight of the modern city built above them. The original engineering maps have been lost to time, leaving modern urban archaeologists to piece together the labyrinth's full extent using old fire insurance charts, fragmentary property records, and sheer deduction. Each new discovery, often made during downtown construction projects, raises more questions than it answers. Why were certain passageways deliberately bricked up from both sides? What explains the evidence of habitation? Old bedrolls, cans of food, personal items found in chambers that, according to all available maps, should not even exist. The tunnels are a physical manifestation of Seattle's complex identity, a city that often prefers to pave over its less savory history in its relentless drive toward progress. They hold the stories of the city's birth from ashes, its ambitious but flawed engineering, its vices and its victims, a hidden layer of American history waiting patiently in the darkness for its full story to finally be told. Beyond the vast defensive networks and communal living quarters of Cappadocia's underground cities lies a quieter, more intimate dimension of this subterranean world, a spiritual one. Carved into the same soft volcanic rock that concealed entire populations are hundreds of underground churches and chapels, their walls adorned with vibrant frescoes that have endured for centuries in the cool, dark stillness. These were not the grand, soaring cathedrals of European Christendom designed to inspire awe with their scale and light. Instead, they were places of humble, profound devotion, hidden from view to protect both the faithful and their most sacred expressions of belief. The very act of creating these spaces required a different kind of faith, one that found solace and sanctity not in reaching toward the heavens, but in drawing inward into the protective embrace of the earth itself. The breathtaking artistry contained within these rock-cut chapels presents a fascinating historical puzzle. The frescoes themselves are a visual library of early Christian theology, depicting everything from the life of Christ and the Virgin Mary to the portraits of venerated saints and martyrs. Yet the styles are remarkably diverse, spanning many centuries and artistic influences. Some display the formal, hieratic figures and rich symbolism characteristic of the Byzantine Empire's middle period, while others feature a more linear, narrative style that hints at local workshops and independent traditions. This stylistic variety is a primary source of the mystery surrounding them. Without extensive written records, pinning down a precise chronology is incredibly difficult. Were they painted over generations by a continuous community, or do they represent distinct periods of expansion and renewal following times of persecution? Furthermore, the denominational affiliations of their creators are often unclear. While the region was firmly within the sphere of Byzantine orthodoxy, its position on the edge of the empire also exposed it to other Christian influences, including Syrian and Armenian traditions. Certain architectural features and iconographic choices in some chapels suggest these outside influences may have blended with Orthodox practices, creating a unique local expression of faith that was literally set in stone, hidden away from the theological authorities who might have deemed it unorthodox. This leads to the compelling question of why these communities felt such a powerful need to hide their places of worship. The two most prevalent theories point to two different kinds of threats. The first was the external danger of invasion. For centuries, Cappadocia lay on a volatile frontier, subject to raids by Persian armies and later by Islamic forces. A surface church with a visible bell tower or cross was an obvious target for destruction or desecration. An underground chapel, its entrance concealed amongst the region's famous ferry chimneys or within a network of already existing tunnels, was virtually invisible to an invading army passing through. The second, and perhaps more complex, threat came from within the Byzantine Empire itself, the period of iconoclasm in the 8th and 9th centuries. During this time, the imperial authorities in Constantinople vehemently opposed the veneration of religious icons, ordering the systematic destruction of paintings and mosaics depicting holy figures. For communities that deeply believed in the power of icons as windows to the divine, this was an unbearable decree. Hiding their beautifully painted churches underground became an act of silent defiance, a way to preserve their sacred art and their mode of worship from the hands of the very state that was supposed to protect them. In these hidden chambers, the faithful could continue their rituals surrounded by the images of their faith, safe from the iconoclasts who sought to wipe them out. The function of these churches within the daily life of the underground communities was multifaceted. They were, first and foremost, active places of worship where the community would gather for liturgy, prayer, and the sacraments. The presence of carved baptismal fonts in many of them indicates that the fundamental rites of initiation into the Christian community were performed right there in the dim, flickering light of oil lamps. The acoustics in these rock-cut spaces are often remarkable, naturally amplifying the chanting of psalms and the recitation of prayers, creating an immersive and deeply moving sensory experience that would have strengthened communal bonds. But beyond weekly services, these chambers also served as vital sanctuaries for private contemplation and monastic life. Smaller, more isolated chapels were likely used by hermits or small groups of monks seeking solitude for prayer and ascetic practice, far from the distractions of the main settlements. In times of extreme danger, when the entire population was forced to retreat underground for weeks or months, these churches would have become the absolute heart of the community, the place where people sought comfort, hope, and a sense of normalcy amidst the fear and confinement. They were a spiritual anchor, a constant reminder of their identity and beliefs that sustained them through the longest and darkest of sieges. The enduring power of these spaces lies in this duality. They were both a practical solution for survival and a profound testament to a faith so resilient that it chose to flourish in the darkness, preserving its most beautiful creations deep within the earth, waiting for a more peaceful time to come. Shifting our focus from the ancient and spiritual to the realm of medieval power and conspiracy, we arrive at one of history's most enduring and tantalizing mysteries, the secret underground world of the Knights Templar. This powerful military order, founded in the 12th century to protect Christian pilgrims in the Holy Land, rapidly evolved into Europe's first multinational banking corporation and a formidable political force, amassing staggering wealth and influence. Their sudden and brutal suppression in the early 14th century, engineered by King Philip IV of France, saw the order disbanded, its leaders executed on false charges, and its vast assets seemingly vanished into thin air. It is from this abrupt and traumatic end that the most persistent legends were born, legends that speak not of lost treasures hidden in desert caves, but of intricate subterranean networks right under the feet of European royalty, used to conceal the order's riches and its most profound secrets. The stories are etched into the folklore surrounding key Templar sites across the continent. Beneath the famously enigmatic Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland, a structure steeped in Templar and Masonic symbolism, legends insist a hidden crypt protects everything from the lost treasures of the Templar treasury to the sacred relics they supposedly guarded, such as the Holy Grail or the Ark of the Covenant. In the ancient Templar stronghold of Toma in Portugal, local tales describe a labyrinth of tunnels connecting the imposing charola, the order's original church, to other parts of the castle, and perhaps even to the banks of the nearby Nabao River, allowing for the discreet movement of people and goods. Similar narratives persist in France beneath the fortress of Geysers and in other commanderies scattered from England to Cyprus, painting a picture of a pan-European underground web engineered for security, secrecy, and survival. For centuries, these accounts were dismissed by mainstream historians as romantic fictions, the stuff of conspiracy theories and sensationalist novels. The Templars, they argued, were pragmatic warriors and bankers, not subterranean architects. However, the ground is literally shifting beneath this skeptical view. Modern archaeological technology is beginning to validate fragments of these age-old stories. Ground-penetrating radar surveys and cautious excavations have indeed confirmed the existence of previously unknown voids and man-made tunnels beneath several verified Templar sites. In the town of Ponteferrada in Spain, for instance, radar scans revealed an extensive complex of tunnels and chambers beneath a Templar castle. While these discoveries rarely revealed chests of gold, they do prove that the Templars were actively and skillfully modifying the underground landscape for purposes that went far beyond simple cellar storage. So if the tunnels are real, what was their true purpose? The romantic notion of treasure caves, while compelling, is only a small part of a much more practical and strategic picture. The Order's immense wealth wasn't just gold and jewels. It was in documented loans, land deeds, and promissory notes. The real treasure they needed to protect was often information itself. Their underground spaces likely served as incredibly secure archives and scriptoriums, where sensitive financial records, internal communications, and potentially the unique knowledge they acquired from the Middle East could be protected from fire, theft, and prying eyes. Furthermore, as a militant order constantly preparing for conflict, these tunnels would have provided critical strategic advantages. They could be used for the safe, unseen movement of troops between different parts of a fortress during a siege, for discreet entry and exit, or for securing emergency water supplies. The tunnels beneath Toma, for example, likely had a highly practical function in ensuring a reliable and defensible water source, a fundamental necessity for any garrison under threat. This blend of practical military engineering and profound secrecy is what fuels the enduring mystery and allows conspiracy theories to flourish. The Order's initiation rituals were conducted behind closed doors. Their internal hierarchy was opaque to outsiders, and their sudden demise meant many of their records were destroyed or lost. This historical black hole creates the perfect vacuum for speculation. Did they use these tunnels for clandestine meetings to plan their survival after their official dissolution? Could they have hidden not just wealth, but religious artifacts or heretical knowledge that challenged the orthodoxy of the Church? The lack of definitive answers is what makes the Templar underground so captivating. It represents the ultimate cold case, a puzzle where every new archaeological discovery feels like a clue, but the full picture remains just out of reach, buried under centuries of soil, stone, and legend. The truth is probably less dramatic than the myth, but in many ways it is even more impressive. It reveals the Knights Templar not as mythical guardians of arcane secrets, but as brilliant, pragmatic, and security-obsessed pioneers who understood the power of what lies beneath, using the earth itself to protect an empire that for a time rivaled the might of kings. Journeying from the cold, stone corridors of European castles to the vast, sun-drenched expanse of the North African desert, we arrive in a landscape so harsh and beautiful it feels like another planet. Here, in the south of Tunisia, the relentless sun bleaches the earth and the heat shimmers in waves off the rocky ground. In this seemingly inhospitable environment, human ingenuity has not merely survived but has thrived in one of the most striking and enduring ways imaginable. This is Matmata, a place where the very idea of a home is turned inside out. Instead of building structures up from the ground, the people of this region have for centuries done the opposite, carving their lives deep into the soft, forgiving rock beneath their feet, creating a breathtaking underground city that is not a relic of the past but a vibrant, living community. The most iconic dwelling in Matmata is the troglodyte home, an architectural form of stunning simplicity and effectiveness. To create one, a large circular courtyard, often over 30 feet deep and equally wide, is excavated straight down into the ground. This central pit becomes the heart of the home, an open-air gathering space that feels both secluded and expansive. Radiating out from the walls of this giant courtyard like rooms branching off a main hall, are individual chambers carved horizontally into the earth. These are the functional rooms of the house, the kitchen, the bedrooms, the living areas, and stables for animals. The effect is a negative image of a traditional house. Where a normal home has walls built around open space, a Matmata home is open space carved out of solid walls. This design is a masterclass in passive climate control. The thick layers of rock provide incredible insulation, shielding the interior from the scorching daytime heat that can easily exceed 110 degrees Fahrenheit and retaining warmth during the surprisingly cold desert nights. The temperature inside remains a near constant, comfortable 70 degrees year-round, creating a natural oasis of comfort without the need for any mechanical air conditioning or heating. The great mystery that hangs over Matmata is the origin of this unique architectural tradition. While the homes are inhabited today, their beginnings are lost in the fog of time, with no written records or definitive archaeological evidence to point to a specific date or founder. The most widely accepted theory credits the indigenous Berber people, the Amazigh, with its innovation centuries ago, perhaps as far back as the Roman era. In this narrative, the underground dwellings were a brilliant defensive adaptation. By building their homes invisibly into the landscape, communities could protect themselves from the raids of nomadic tribes or the reach of invading armies sweeping across the desert. A village could be virtually undetectable from just a few hundred yards away, its presence betrayed only by the nearly imperceptible plumes of smoke from cooking fires, which would dissipate quickly in the vast desert air. This theory of concealment is powerfully compelling, painting a picture of a resilient culture using the earth itself as a fortress. However, an alternative theory suggests a more gradual and practical evolution. Some anthropologists propose that the first dwellings might have begun not as defensive strongholds, but as simple, functional quarries. Families would dig into the hillsides to extract the soft gypsum rock, a valuable material for building and plaster. Over time, they realized the excavated pits offered superior shelter from the elements compared to surface tents. These initial hollows were then gradually enlarged and refined, generation by generation, into the sophisticated homes we see today. This theory suggests the architecture was less a planned invention and more an organic, slow-motion discovery, a perfect example of form-following function in response to one of the most challenging environments on Earth. The truth likely lies in a combination of both motives, a practical solution for comfort that also offered a crucial strategic advantage, evolving over centuries into a deeply ingrained cultural identity. Beyond the physical structure, the underground homes of Matmata fostered a unique and rich cultural world. The central courtyard was the stage for daily life, a multi-purpose space where the social and the practical intertwined. Women would gather here to weave colorful textiles on traditional looms, their patterns telling stories and encoding tribal symbols. Families would share meals in the cool of the evening under a canopy of stars visible from the pit, the acoustics of the space amplifying the sounds of conversation and laughter. The architecture itself reinforced social bonds and offered a sense of communal security. The clustered homes, often connected through extended family networks, created a close-knit neighborhood where everyone looked out for one another. This way of life represents a profound harmony with the environment, a philosophy of living within the earth rather than dominating it, of drawing sustenance and protection from the land without scarring its surface. The modern era has brought both challenges and unexpected fame to Matmata. In the 1970s, the town was catapulted onto the global stage when it served as a primary filming location for the desert planet of Tatooine in the original Star Wars film. The iconic Hotel City Driss, itself a converted traditional dwelling, became the home of Luke Skywalker, its whitewashed curved walls and strange beauty instantly recognizable to millions. This cinematic fame transformed the local economy, bringing tourism and a new source of income. However, it also introduced a tension between preservation and modernization. Some younger generations, attracted by the conveniences of contemporary life, have moved into government-built housing on the surface, leaving some of the ancient pits abandoned. Yet many families fiercely maintain their ancestral homes, recognizing their incredible practical value and deep cultural significance. Today, Matmata stands as a powerful, living bridge between the ancient and the modern, a testament to human adaptability that continues to challenge our conventional notions of what a home should be, proving that sometimes the most advanced solution is not to build up but to dig in. Beneath the well-trodden paths of the City of Light, far from the curated tourist experience of the Parisian ossuary with its neat stacks of bones, exists another city entirely, a shadowy, unofficial, and endlessly evolving labyrinth known only to a secretive subculture of urban explorers called cataphiles. This hidden network, estimated to stretch over 200 miles, dwarfs the small, legal section open to the public, weaving a complex and uncharted web beneath arrondissements and boulevards. While the official catacombs present a sanitized, historical narrative of death, these forbidden passages tell a much richer, more chaotic, and living story of the city itself, a subterranean archive of rebellion, art, and human connection that continues to defy authority and capture the imagination. The very existence of this vast, unauthorized network is a testament to centuries of layered history and industrial activity. Much of the labyrinth began as ancient limestone quarries, whose stone built Parisian landmarks like Notre Dame and the Louvre. As the city expanded above, these hollowed-out voids were largely forgotten, creating a fragile and unstable negative space beneath the metropolis. Over time, this abandoned underworld became a dumping ground, a repository for everything the surface world wanted to forget. But in the mid-20th century, a shift occurred. Adventurous souls began to venture into these off-limit zones, not as miners or officials, but as explorers. They became known as cataphiles, lovers of the catacombs, and they began to map, clean, and ultimately reclaim these spaces, transforming them from forgotten voids into a dynamic underground frontier. What these modern explorers discovered was astonishing. The walls of these secret tunnels serve as a sprawling, unauthorized canvas, displaying a breathtaking range of art. You can find meticulously carved bas-reliefs recreating famous sculptures like the seated scribe from the Louvre, their details picked out by the beam of a headlamp. There are stunning, full-color murals depicting everything from surreal dreamscapes to political satire, painted with spray cans brought down in heavy backpacks. In one chamber, you might find a precise replica of a classic French brasserie, complete with a carved bar and stone stools, while another hosts a perfectly functional cinema with projector and rows of seats, all smuggled underground piece by piece. This is not mere graffiti, it is a sustained, collective artistic project, a hidden gallery that challenges the very definitions of art and exhibition. Beyond the art, these tunnels hold tangible clues to Paris's turbulent past. Cataphiles have uncovered sealed-off rooms that served as hideouts for the French resistance during the Nazi occupation, with old radio equipment and discarded supplies still in place. There are rumors of hidden chambers used by revolutionaries during the upheavals of 1848 or the Paris Commune, their entrances long since bricked up and lost. Some passages lead to forgotten access points to the basements of iconic institutions, hinting at how this underground world has been used for centuries for clandestine movement and secrecy. Each artifact, from a century-old wine bottle to a worn-out shoe, is a piece of the puzzle, offering an alternative, raw history of the city that is absent from official museums and history books. This underground world is, however, incredibly perilous. The constant threat of sudden collapse hangs over every expedition, with piles of rubble often blocking once clear paths. Navigational errors are easy to make in the featureless, twisting corridors, and becoming lost in the absolute darkness without a reliable map can be a death sentence. The air in some sections can be thin or contaminated with radon gas, and unexpected rainfall can cause rapid, deadly flooding. Despite these dangers, the allure remains powerful. For cataphiles, the draw is multifaceted. It is the thrill of exploration, the satisfaction of accessing a forbidden world, and the profound sense of community found in secret gatherings deep below the bustling streets. In a hyper-connected, surveilled, and commercialized surface world, the catacombs represent one of the last truly free and unregulated spaces, a place where people can create, commune, and exist entirely outside the norms of society above. The persistent fascination with this hidden Paris speaks to something fundamental in the human spirit. It is a physical manifestation of our desire to explore the unknown, to seek out mystery in an increasingly mapped and explained world. The catacombs represent the city's ID, its subconscious mind, a place where all that is repressed, forgotten, or rebellious is stored away. They force us to confront the duality of urban life. The elegant, orderly city above is entirely dependent on a fragile, chaotic, and largely invisible foundation below. This underground network is more than just tunnels and bones. It is a living, breathing counterculture that holds up a mirror to the city above, reflecting its history, its art, and its enduring spirit of resistance, all thriving in the profound and silent darkness. From the impossible depths of Derinkuyu to the clandestine art galleries beneath Paris, this journey through the world's subterranean labyrinths reveals a profound truth about human history. Our story is not only written in the monuments that reach for the sky, but perhaps even more eloquently in the secret worlds we have carved into the earth itself. These hidden cities challenge the very foundation of what we think we know about ancient ingenuity, pushing us to reconsider the limits of engineering, the depths of spiritual belief, and the incredible lengths communities will go to in order to protect their way of life. They force us to confront a narrative of survival that is not about conquest and expansion, but about retreat, concealment, and resilience, a history lived in the quiet, cool darkness, away from the glaring sun of the surface world. Each of these underground marvels, from the sacred silence of Malta's Hypogeum to the chaotic, modern mystery of the Oasis catacombs, leaves experts with far more questions than definitive answers. They are like magnificent books written in languages we can no longer fully translate, their most crucial chapters still waiting to be deciphered. Why did the temple builders of Malta invest centuries of labor into a structure dedicated solely to the dead? How did the architects of Derinkuyu coordinate such a massive excavation with such perfect precision, entirely by hand? What untold stories of resistance and survival are sealed within the unstable passages beneath Ukraine? With every technological advance in ground-penetrating radar and LiDAR scanning, we detect new voids, new anomalies, hinting that what we have discovered so far might only be the preface to a much grander, hidden volume of human history waiting just beneath our feet. These testaments to human resilience are not just relics to be studied. They are mirrors reflecting our own modern challenges and instincts. They show us that the drive to seek shelter, to build community, and to create beauty is a fundamental part of the human spirit, whether we are hiding from invaders, escaping a nuclear threat, or simply seeking respite from a scorching sun. The ancient impulse that led to the construction of Nushabad's natural air conditioning system is the same one that drives the residents of Kuba Pedi to live comfortably in the desert today. The need for sacred space that created the kivas of the American Southwest is the same need that inspires the awe we feel standing in the underground churches of Cappadocia. These places remind us that our relationship with the planet is not solely one of dominance, but also of integration, of working with the Earth's materials and rhythms to ensure our survival and express our deepest beliefs. As we look to the future, these subterranean wonders offer unexpected lessons. In an era of climate change and environmental uncertainty, the passive, sustainable cooling and heating principles employed for millennia in places like Matmata and the Kish Coral City present fascinating models for modern, energy-efficient architecture. The cooperative spirit and incredible organizational skills required to build and maintain these vast complexes serve as a powerful reminder of what humanity can achieve when we work together toward a common goal of preservation and protection. They teach us about adaptability, about finding innovative solutions in the most unexpected places, and about the enduring power of the human spirit to not just endure, but to flourish, even in the most challenging conditions. This exploration beneath the surface is far from over. Every sealed passage, every uncharted tunnel, and every mysterious cavity detected by new technology represents a new page in this incredible story. An invitation to keep digging, keep wondering, and keep learning. These hidden worlds have silently shaped our past, safeguarding cultures, preserving knowledge, and protecting lives through countless crises. Now they invite us to reflect on what we might carry forward from their legacy. What aspects of our own culture are worth preserving for millennia? How can we build a future that is both innovative and sustainable, inspired by the wisdom of the past? The Labyrinth is not just a place of historical mystery, it is a call to curiosity, a challenge to look beyond the obvious and discover the deeper layers of our own potential. If this journey into the depths has sparked your imagination, let us know in the comments which of these underground cities you find most fascinating. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more adventures into the world's greatest historical